Chapter 2394. Both sides were racing against time. Luli and Inchingruei moved forward quickly. Soon, they found 3 people. However, when they went to the second group, they found 3 bodies. Since the door was not big, only 3 people would come in each time. Since they did not come in together, they would be teleported to different places. Luli put them into his interspatial ring when he found them and moved on with Inchingruei. He didn't have time to waste with these people. With every breath of time he wasted, perhaps some people would die. After running for an hour, Luli found more than 30 people and more than 20 dead bodies. He didn't run into Songlong even once in an hour. Clearly, Songlong had sensed his whereabouts and avoided him in advance. In other words, Songlong's team had cracked the divine pattern here. At the very least, they could see through it and the pattern would not affect them. Luli kept on looking. He would either find bodies or people. An hour later, Luli found 3 more people. He found the rest as well, but they were all dead bodies. 2 young ladies were missing. The meaning of missing was clear. The 2 young ladies must have been captured because another young lady with them was killed. The 2 young ladies could not have disappeared all of a sudden. They must have been captured by Songlong. Inchingruei was fuming but Luli was calm. Their enemies had captured the 2 young ladies to infuriate them. The less calm one was, the easier it would be for one to be killed. Luli let out more than 100 wind warcraft and surrounded them. Then, he let everyone else out. In this way, when Songlong and the others attacked, they could organize a counterattack. Blood Fairy had been studying the divine pattern and cracking it. But she could not do it in a short time. After all, this was the major pattern of the Hall of 7 Tones. Luli did not take any action. He had been using the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. Although he could not use his spiritual force to detect the situation around him, he could still sense it immediately if any living beings approached or if there was any killing intent. Yin Tianfan and Yin Rulan were badly injured. They would need at least a few days to recover. Luli decided to wait. Both of them had holy weapon fragments. They were the most powerful in the team. Without them, Luli was not confident that he could defeat Songlong and Songhe. The more than 100 wind warcraft formed a circle around them. There were 36 of them left, and they formed a second circle with Luli and Inchingruei in the middle. If it weren't for Luli, they would all be dead. Luli had saved them many times. Therefore, at this moment, this peak second tribulation became the most important person in the team. Everyone subconsciously surrounded him in the middle, afraid that he would be killed by a sneak attack. Time passed bit by bit, but there was no movement in the surroundings. Everyone slowly let down their guard. Some of them sat cross-legged. Of course, they were still secretly on guard. 4 hours later, Luli suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "To the southeast, attack!" Buzz, as soon as Luli shouted, the horns of the more than 100 wind warcraft lit up. The others were surprised by Luli's words. Then they flew up and began to attack. Swish, swish, swish. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks of the Wind Demon Beast and the others were extremely powerful. Some of their attacks slammed into the stone pillars, causing the divine inscriptions on them to ripple. Waves of oppressive aura spread out, causing the space around them to tremble. Fall back! Someone shouted in exasperation. Someone cried out in pain as well. But it was too far away and there was a white haze. Therefore, the others could not see clearly. Impressive! After 2 rounds of attacks, they stopped. They looked at Luli with more respect. How powerful was Luli's senses to be able to detect the enemy's traces from such a long distance and to give the order to attack at once. Luli said nothing. He continued to sit quietly. He had the trace of Tao and Blood Fairy. It was impossible for Songlong and the others to get close without him noticing. Songlong didn't attack, which cheered Luli up a bit. The more time passed, the better Yin Tianfan and Yin Rulan's injuries would be. That being said, Luli believed that Songlong would attack. Songlong was not an idiot. He knew that after Een Tianfan and the others recovered, it would be more difficult to kill all of them. Song Long didn't attack just now because Lu Li had seen through him. Song Long was in a panic. Later, he would organize another attack. Song Long and the others had holy weapon fragments in their hands. In terms of numbers, they were about the same. If Song Long didn't dare to attack, then he wouldn't deserve to be the most important young master of the Tsang family. Lu Li sent a message to the others. Yin Chengrui began to arrange formations. Lu Li also sent a message to Yin Tianfan and Yin Ruolin, who were in the heaven separation bead. If they could not hold on, then he would have to send them out to fight. The two of them swallowed the best healing medicine. After recuperating for a while, their injuries recovered a little. At least, they wouldn't pass out. That being said, it would still be difficult for them to fight. Of course, if they were to fight with their lives on the line, they would not have any scruples. If they didn't, everyone would die. Staying alive was the most important thing. Their vitality could be recovered over time. They were all nervous. Lu Li's judgment had never been wrong. If he said that Song Long and the others would come back and attack, then they would. If Yin Tianfan and Yin Ruolin were fine, then it wouldn't matter. They were not afraid. But now they were worried. They are here. As Lu Li had expected, in just an hour, he opened his eyes and looked to the left. He shouted, "Everyone, get ready. Focus on Song Long and Song He. Don't worry about the others." Everyone opened their eyes wide. From the haze in the distance came many noises. Then more than 20 people rushed out. Before they arrived, those on the other side had already started to attack. Phew, the Wind Warcraft released its wind-related skills at once. A gust of wind blew over, slowing down those on the other side. Everyone stared at them, looking for Song Long and Song He. Lu Li had told them to attack Song Long and Song He. Something is wrong. Lu Li suddenly came to his senses. He shouted, "Song Long and Song He are behind us!" Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Lu Li finished his words, there came some noises. Then, some tiles and pieces of porcelain flew over. The horrifying energy suffocated everyone. The timing of Song Long and Song He's sneak attack was perfect. Everyone's attention was attracted by those in front of them. By the time they realized what was happening, the two pieces of holy weapon had arrived. If they didn't stop the two pieces, the 5 or 6 behind them would be crushed to death in an instant. Therefore, without any hesitation, Lu Li controlled the Wind Warcraft to rush toward the two pieces of holy weapon. At the same time, Lu Li asked Phantom King and Phantom Shadow to attack Song Long and Song He from the left and right respectively. He only had one piece of holy weapon. He didn't want to use it unless it was a critical moment. To get the two pieces back, he had to take down the ringleader first. Chapter 2395. Boom, 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 the two pieces of holy weapon came at them like two mountains. All the Wind Warcraft that dashed at them were smashed into pieces. They could not stand it. The Wind Warcraft was not strong in defense, and Song Long and Song Long were powerful warriors at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation. Charge! The others finally came to their senses. They flew up and began to attack Song Long and Song He. At the same time, Phantom and Phantom dashed over as well. They attacked Song Long and Song He from both sides. Song Long and Song He sneered. They each took out a bead and threw it at Lu Li. The bead exploded and Phantom were sucked in. Song Long took out a black flag and covered up the space in front of him. Song He took out a shield and put it in front of him. Lu Li had no time to pay attention to Phantom and Phantom because the two pieces of holy weapon were coming at him. The patterns on the tile glowed. Then a phantom of a beast whooshed over and enveloped Lu Li. Buzzing, Lu Li had no other choice but to take out the relic iron and smash at the tile. As for the phantom in his body, he had no time to worry about it. He believed that the dragon's soul could stand it. Boom! When the two saint weapon fragments collided, The surrounding cultivators and the wind magical beast were all sent flying. There were even a few cultivators that were struck by the rainbow light and received heavy injuries. Many wind warcraft were killed as well. This time, Lu Li's wind warcraft had suffered a great loss. But Lu Li couldn't worry about that now. Something was wrong in his soul. The dragon's soul seemed to be unable to stand the phantom of the beast in his soul. Once his soul couldn't stand it anymore, he would die instantly. Therefore, Lu Li didn't care about anything else. He called Spectre back at once and asked it to protect his soul and suppress the beast. Also, he let Yin Tianfan and Yin Ruolan out. If he died, the two would be trapped in the separation bead. By then, they would die as well. Charge, Lu Li had told them before. As soon as they came out, they charged at Song Long and Song He. Song Jie hurried to fly the relic pieces back. Song Long, on the other hand, did not. If he could not kill Lu Li now, he might not get another chance in the future. More importantly, Yin Tianfan and Yin Ruolan were injured. Even with the holy weapon piece, they could survive. They could leave after Lu Li was dead. Lu Li was at the peak of the second tribulation, but he had more than 100 wind warcraft, and he had a profound understanding of glyphs. Killing Lu Li would be equivalent to cutting off a powerful arm of the Yin family. Wu Phantom came back and went into Lu Li's soul to attack the phantom of the beast. This strange beast image should be the artifact spirit of the sacred weapon fragment. It was abnormally strong. This must be the artifact spirit of the holy weapon of Lu. Yin Tianfen, Yin Ruolan, Yin Qingrui, and the others started to fight with Song Chui and Song Long. There were also some people who followed them and attacked. The rest of the people and the Wind Devil Beast attacked the people from the Tsang clan. Warcraft. Heaven. Long didn't have chi but weapon. Song He. Li and He. Dragon. In addition, Song He had a holy artifact shard, so the two of them could easily fight against 7 or 8 people. On the other side, the people from the Tsang family were in a miserable state. There were too many wind demon beasts. The Tsang family only had more than 20 people. How could they withstand so many wind demon beasts? The Yin family still had warriors. Something's wrong. Song Long waited for the time for several breaths. He was shocked to see that Lu Li was still alive. The artifact spirit in his tile was powerful. Back in the days, a forefather of the Tsang family paid a great price to seal it in. Theoretically speaking, Lu Li should have been dead. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. He hastily used his spiritual connection with the artifact spirit to sense it. Soon, his expression changed drastically. This was because he discovered that the artifact spirit was extremely weak at the moment, as if it could be destroyed at any moment. He was frightened. Without this artifact spirit, the power of this tile would be greatly reduced. He hurriedly controlled the spirit to fly out and the tiles to fly back. You think you can come as you please? You think you can leave just like that? Lu Li opened his eyes and flew over. He smashed at the tile with the relic iron. After some muffled sounds, the glow of the tile dimmed down. But it still flew back and landed in Song Long's hands. Let's go. Song Long glared at Lu Li. The tile was clearly damaged and its power was greatly reduced. He could not repair it now. He had to go back and ask the powerful warriors of his family to repair it. Going for wool and coming home shorn. Even though they had killed some warriors of the Yin family and Lu Li's more than 20 wind demon beasts, the Tsang family had lost people as well. What was more, the tile was damaged. Boom, 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 Song Long and Song He threw out the beads that could explode to stop Yin Tianfan and the others from chasing after them. They left quickly. On the other side, the Tsang family also left with the 7 dead bodies. The battle had come to an end. Both sides suffered a great loss. 7 warriors of the Tsang family died, 5 from the Yin family and 7 or 8 were injured. More than 20 wind demon beasts were lost and more than 30 were injured. The injured wind demon beasts could recover slowly. but Luli could not replenish the dead ones. There were no wind demon beasts nearby. They cleaned up the battlefield and put away the bodies in sorrow. The hatred in their eyes grew deeper. Too many had died in this battle. If they had the chance, they would cut Song Long and the others into pieces. Een Tian Fan and Een Ruolan comforted them. Then, they didn't go back into the interspatial artifact. They sat here to heal. Song Long and the others might come again, so they had to be careful. Luli was relieved. He sat on the ground to tend to his wounds. He was hurt by the impact just now. He believed that Song Long wouldn't come because his holy weapon fragment was damaged. Song Long was not sure that he could win. If he kept on attacking, even if he could kill some of the Een family warriors, he would suffer a great loss. What was fortunate was that Song Long and the others must have obtained many treasures, but they couldn't use them, just like the horn in Lu Li's hand. If they could, they would have died a long time ago. They waited for half a day, but Song Long didn't come back. Een Tian Fan and Een Ruolan's wounds were healed. Everyone was relieved. Now that these two great generals had recovered, everyone had a pillar of support. Time moved on. 4 days later, everyone had recovered. However, Luli didn't lead them away. He continued to sit here. He was waiting for Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy had been working on the runes here. If she didn't, they would not be able to leave this hall. If they couldn't leave this hall, they would not be able to find Song Long or the Hall of Seven Tones. Luli sent a message to Een Tian Fan and Een Ruolan. Then, he continued to cultivate. Een Tian Fan and Een Ruolan comforted them to be patient and wait for Lu Li's news. 6 days later, Lu Li opened his eyes. Everyone turned to look at him. Chapter 2396. The patterns here could not be controlled, but that did not stop Blood Fairy from finding the way out. Song Yen must have been like this as well. He knew the way out but did not know how to control the patterns here. If he could, then he could trap Lu Li and the others to death. Along the way, there were many turns and twists and turns. Everyone was confused. Finally, they saw a door, but it was open. Lu Li took a look and said solemnly, "They must have gone in." Song Yen and the others had come in much earlier than them. All the treasures had been taken away. Naturally, the patterns here had been cracked. Since they were not going to force their way in, it was understandable that they would go to the next level. Een Tianfen and Een Ruolan took the lead and rushed in, followed by Lu Li and the others. After a flash of white light, they arrived at a glaring hall. In front of them, there was a glaring portal about 20 miles away. Exit. Everyone's eyes glowed. But when they looked to the side, their faces were clouded. Song Long and the others were sitting there, waiting for the others to come. When enemies met, their eyes were filled with hatred. Everyone was burning with anger, especially Een Ruolan. She was even more furious when she saw Song Long's lustful look. They did not act impulsively when they came in. They stood there calmly, waiting for Lu Li, Een Tian Fan, and Een Ruolan's orders. Lu Li let out Blood Fairy secretly to check the surroundings. Something must be wrong. Since Song Long and the others had all the treasures but were not going out, then there could only be two possibilities. Either they could not get out of that portal, or they were going to kill everyone first. Seeing how relaxed Song Long and Song He were, Lu Li was more inclined to the latter. But Song Yen was facing the portal. Maybe the patterns on the portal were not cracked. Song Long's holy weapon fragment was broken. His group was smaller, and their overall abilities were weaker. If so, why were they so calm? Did they have something new to rely on? For example, some ancient artifact? Lu Li could not figure it out. At once, he let out Wind Warcraft, Phantom King and Phantom Shadow. At the same time, he was ready to take out the Divine Metal. Previously, he had used Godly Metal, and everyone knew about it. Though many people were very surprised, they didn't say anything. Lu Li had brought them so many surprises that they had become numb. "Lu Li, do we do it or not? What should we do?" Een Tianfan and Een Rulan sent a message almost at the same time. Luli thought about it and said, "Don't worry. Let me have a look first." Luli was afraid that there might be some divine glyph. Therefore, he had to wait for Blood Fairy's result before making a decision. He wanted to wait, but Song Long and the others didn't want to wait for him. A ray of red light suddenly appeared under Song Yan's feet. The red light spread over quickly and reached the front of Luli and the others in an instant. Luli hurriedly asked everyone to step back. Everyone was on guard. All of a sudden, the gate behind Luli and the others began to glow. Then a shield appeared and enveloped the gate. "They sealed this one," Lu Hai said in a low voice. Everyone's expression became even more serious. Did he mean to seal this door to cut off their way out? Could it be that Song Long and the others had absolute confidence in killing them? Otherwise, why would they seal the door? Hee. Song Long suddenly stood up at this moment. He looked at Een Rulan with a smile and said, "Young Lady Rulan, I'll give you two choices. First, you can surrender and they won't have to die. Second, you can all die. None of you can live." Een Rulan pulled a long face. The other family warriors were enraged. But Een Tianfan was still calm. He told them not to act rashly. Before they had a clear understanding of Song Long and the others' trump cards, they might die for no reason. "No divine glyphs," Blood Fairy said. "That portal has divine glyphs and they are not cracked yet. The other places are not covered with divine glyphs, only the main divine glyphs of the Hall of Seven Tones." Okay, Luli nodded. It seemed that Song Yan had not cracked the divine glyphs of the portal yet. Song Long must have something to rely on for his arrogance. It was highly likely that he had taken control of some ancient artifact. Luli told Een Tianfan about the situation. The latter nodded. Turning to Song Long, Luli said, "Song Long, cut the crap. Show me what else you have. If you can convince us wholeheartedly, why don't we just surrender?" Een Tianfan was trying to goad Song Long into revealing his trump card. That way, everyone would be able to be mentally prepared. Ha 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 ha! Song Long laughed out loud. Waving his hand, he said, "If you want to see, I will show you. This time, you will be convinced." Buzzing, Song Long's ring glowed. Two people came out. As soon as they came out, the temperature in the hall dropped by several times. Everyone felt cold from head to toe, as if they had fallen into a glacier on a winter day when they were children. It was not just cold. More importantly, there was fear from the depth of their souls. Everyone had experienced this before, as if they were faced with a super ferocious beast when they were young. That was the instinctive fear and panic of a low-level creature toward a powerful one. Luli felt like he had encountered an avatar of an immortal in the mortal world. At that moment, he could not help but tremble. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Song Long released two corpses. One of the corpses was that of a man. There was a broken sword on his chest and back, and there were faint brown bloodstains on his armor. His eyes were closed, and there was not a trace of life in his body. He stood there like an ancient fiend god. The other body was a beautiful girl. There was no trace of blood on her face. Her eyes were closed as well. Even though there was no sign of life, she was like a holy relic with a holy air. Everyone had seen the two bodies. It was the last scene when Luli was playing. The man the girl loved died. The girl went into the coffin to be buried with him. The daughter of a saint king and the man she loved. Two bodies, two dead bodies that had been dead for years, but they still exerted tremendous pressure. Everyone felt suffocated. They felt their blood was frozen. How powerful were they when they were alive? This was the question on everyone's mind. Everyone here was at the fourth tribulation, and Luli was as strong as one. However, he felt he could not even move. Fifth tribulation? That was not possible. Fifth tribulation warriors could not be this powerful. They must be at least sixth tribulation warriors. Sixth tribulation warriors are not that powerful. In Tianfan shook his head. His family had warriors of the Lord Realm in every generation. In Tianfan once saw the body of their forefather, but it was not as powerful as this Emperor Realm. Then, there was only one possibility. The two were once warriors of the Emperor Realm. They were not regular humans, but of a special race. That was why they could still be so powerful after so many years of death. Chapter 2397. Clearly, it was not practical to control the two bodies. Therefore, there were only two options. The first was to kill Songlong. Songlong was in control of the bodies. When Songlong was killed, the two bodies would become ownerless. The second method was to find a way to refine these two corpses. Even if it wasn't two, he could just refine one of them and the rest would be easy. Luli figured it out in an instant. Then, he sent a message to In Tianfan and the others, telling them his thoughts. Almost at the same time, Luli told Blood Fairy to go into the body of the Saint King's daughter and find a way to control her. As a matter of fact, the man's energy was stronger. The broken sword on his chest was like a fragment of a holy weapon. Even so, Luli chose to let Blood Fairy control the Saint King's daughter. After all, she was the Saint King's daughter and the master of the Hall of Seven Tones. More importantly, the Saint King's daughter should have committed suicide while the man was killed. There was a hole in his chest and back. The intact body would be stronger. Kill them! Songlong waved his hand. The two bodies did not move at once. After a pause, they began to emit evil energy and might. Then, they dashed toward Luli and the others. What? Luli suddenly noticed something. He turned to Tsang Yen, who was sitting by the teleportation formation in the distance. He saw that Tsang Yan's hands were glowing. He also saw three people standing next to Tsang Yen. The three stood in a triangle, protecting Tsang Yen in the middle. Tsang Long is not controlling the two bodies. Luli came to his senses at once. He said to In Tianfan and In Rulan, "Find a way to kill Tsang Yen. The two bodies are under Tsang Yan's control. I will stall them and you go and kill Tsang Yen." Okay. In Tianfan and In Rulan nodded. Luli's wind warcraft began to move. Half of them used skills related to wind. Wind was blowing from all sides. However, the two bodies did not slow down one bit. They dashed over like two invincible demons. Luli had no other choice but to control the wind warcraft to charge forward. Whoosh! In Tianfan and In Rulan dashed from the left. They sped toward Tsang Yen at the top of their speed. Tsang Long and the others' expressions changed. They originally wanted to follow the two corpses, but now they could only retreat to protect Tsang Yen. Luli was right. The two corpses were consumed by Tsang Yen. There were powerful divine glyphs in the two corpses. Tsang Yen had consumed some of them and could control them, albeit barely. If Tsang Yen was killed, there would be no way to control these two corpses. At that time, they would be at a disadvantage, and might even be killed by the Yin clan. The divine imprints on the teleportation gate had yet to be deciphered. Boom, boom, boom. Some of the wind demonic beasts shot beams of light at the two corpses. However, the two corpses only trembled slightly and did not suffer any damage. Bang! The man with the broken sword on his body rushed over and punched a wind demonic beast. The wind demonic beast was blasted away, and its head burst open. It was dead. Boom! The Holy Emperor's daughter floated over, and with a light pat of her hand, a wind demon beast was sent flying. A bloody hole appeared in its body, and it died instantly. Bang! Boom! With a flash, the two corpses targeted another wind demon beast. Another two were killed. It was like a pack of hungry wolves entering a flock of sheep. They were not on the same level. Luli noticed that the two corpses were targeting the wind demon beasts instead of going after them. He thought of an idea and ordered the wind demon beasts to scatter and run around. Whoosh! As expected, as soon as the wind demon beasts ran away, the two corpses went after them. Lu Li's eyes glowed. He shouted to Yin Qingrui and the others, "Attack Song Yen and kill him! Charge!" Yin Qingrui and the others were well aware that time was of the essence. If they could not kill Song Yen before the two corpses killed all the wind demon beasts, then they would be the ones to die. There was another reason why Lu Li asked everyone to attack Song Yen. He didn't want Song Yen to have the chance to control the two corpses so that the others could have enough time. Boom, 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 the group of people immediately rushed towards Song Yan's side as if they had gone crazy. Yin Rulan and Yin Tianfan had begun to attack. They had holy weapons in their hands and released all kinds of divine skills, forcing the others to fall back. Song Long and Song He tried their best to hold on. Song Yen had to dodge, or else he would have been killed. Yin Tianfan and Yin Rulan were like lunatics, disregarding their own safety. They were all protecting Song Yen. Since Song Yen could control the two corpses, he could control two super holy weapons. When Lu Li and Yin Qingrui rushed over, the situation became more chaotic. Song Yen hadn't completely consumed the two corpses, so he couldn't control them like his arms. Otherwise, the two corpses wouldn't be chasing after the wind demon beasts. The hall was large. When the wind demon beasts ran away, the two corpses chased after them. They were too far away and Song Yen was being targeted. Song Yen couldn't control the corpses. Boom, boom, boom. A group of people attacked crazily, while Song Long fought back crazily. Yin Tianfan was sent flying, blood spurting out of his mouth. One of Song He's arms was broken. People from the Yin family and the Tsang family started dying. Boom, boom, boom. The wind demon beasts were being killed one by one. More than half of the more than 100 had been killed or injured. The two corpses were faster than the wind demon beasts. Once they caught up, they would be killed in one move. It was fortunate that the wind demon beasts were here. Otherwise, it would be the people who died. The wind demon beasts had bought precious time for Lu Li and the others. It was a pity that Lu Li and the others had failed to kill Song Yen. Lu Li had taken out the relic iron and released the Ghost King. What was more, they were fighting with their lives. Usually, they would have been killed. The reason why Song Yen was still alive was that he was wearing a super armor. The patterns on the armor were more complicated than Yin Tianfan's. It must be of a higher level. Boom! Song Yen was smashed away again. Finally, the armor on his shoulder cracked. Song Long was smashed away several times as well. His hair was disheveled and he was covered in blood. He looked like a ghost. Yin Tianfan, Yin Rulan, Song He and Lu Li were all injured. Lu Li was hit by Song Long once. If it weren't for the fact that he used dragon manipulation, he would have been seriously injured. Boom, boom, boom. Wind demon beasts were dying one after another. Lu Li was heartbroken. The death of the wind demon beasts meant nothing to him. He had lost many powerful slaves. Buzzing, Song Yen shot out a strand of divine power from his hand. That strand of divine power flew out and struck the man's corpse. That man rushed over at once. He grabbed a young master of the Yin family with his hands and pulled. That young master was torn in half. Chapter 2398. Song Yen was protected by powerful armors and Song Long, Song He and others. It would be difficult to kill Song Yen instantly. The dead man was on his way. If Lu Li didn't stop him, then everyone here would be killed. Lu Li made up his mind. He had to hold on for a while. It would be hard for others to survive. Even Yin Tianfan and Yin Rulan might not be able to because they were not as strong as Lu Li. Lu Li turned around and dashed over. He released Dragon Wrestle at once and approached the dead man. Sensing Lu Li's approach, the dead man swung his fist at Lu Li. Hiss, hiss, Lu Li felt he was being frozen by the fist, as if the sky was pressing down on him. At that moment, he felt he could not move or fight back. He could only wait for death. Hoi! Lu Li shouted. Energy surged from his 720 acupoint. He used Dragon Wrestle. He felt he had inexhaustible strength. He swung his fist and smashed at the dead man's chest. Boom! Boom! With two muffled sounds, Luli and the dead man were knocked back at the same time. The difference was that Luli had a hole in his right chest, while the dead man was only knocked back. Whether it was the people from the Yin family or the Tsang family, they were all stunned. How could Luli survive the attack from the dead man? He smashed the dead man away for hundreds of miles? How strong must a warrior at the peak of the second tribulation be? That being said, they thought it was acceptable that Luli could survive the burning of the black flames and take the horn and the other two treasures. The Yin family warriors exclaimed the most. If Luli could continue to grow, he might have a chance to achieve the supreme divine body. Whoosh! From the distance, the dead man rushed over again. He was too fast. Even though Luli had taken a healing pellet, he could not recover immediately. The thing was, if he did not go, who else could? Whoosh! Luli rushed over in a blur. He had learned his lesson. He held the relic in one hand and attacked the dead man with the other. When the dead man's fist landed on him, Luli blocked it with the relic. Boom! The ancient male corpse's fist landed on the relic iron. Luli spat out some blood and was smashed away. Although his body wasn't penetrated this time, his 5 viscera and 6 bowels were injured. Kill! Yin Tianfan and Yin Ruolan shouted. They knew Luli was using his life to create opportunities for others. If they could not kill Tsang Yen soon, Luli would be killed by the ancient male undead corpse soon. Boom, 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 again and again, they attacked desperately, but Tsang Long and the others blocked and repelled them time and time again. Tsang Long and Tsang He weren't weaklings, and the Tsang clan's people were also risking their lives. Otherwise, if Yin Tianfan and the others killed Tsang Yen, the Yin clan would be in an extremely passive position. Tsang Yen and Tsang He were both injured, and their injuries were not light. Yin Tianfan and the others had attacked crazily, so they were unavoidably injured. However, they were confident that they could hold on for a while. But could Luli? Boom! Luli was smashed away again and again. More and more blood was coming out of his mouth. He looked more and more awful. The male corpse was too strong. He had been dead for so many years that there was no energy left in his body. He could only rely on his physical strength. If he were alive, he could have crushed Luli into pieces with his might alone. Boom! He was smashed away again. Luli's injuries were serious. He turned to Yin Tianfan and the others. Seeing that they were still struggling, Luli put on a bitter face. At this moment, Tsang Yen took out a piece of treasure. It was not a piece of holy weapon, but an ancient bronze palace. That piece of treasure could emit a yellow glow that could be compared to the glow of a holy weapon. It had helped Yin Tianfan and Tsang Long's attacks many times. This piece of treasure should be a piece of divine pattern. Tsang Yen was so accomplished in divine pattern that it was normal for him to have one. With the help of Tsang Long and Tsang He, Yin Tianfan and the others found it difficult to kill Tsang Yen. Bang, bang, bang. On the other side, the Saint King's daughter was chasing after the Wind Warcraft. She had almost killed all of them. Luli had called back the Phantom King. Otherwise, the Phantom King would have been killed. The more than 100 Wind Warcraft were a powerful force for Luli. Now all of them were gone. But Luli had no time to feel sorry. If the Wind Warcraft could survive, then they would. Bang! The last Wind Warcraft was killed. The Saint King's daughter flew over like a ghost. Luli lost all hope when he saw that she was coming toward him. He was already on the verge of collapsing against an ancient male corpse. If the Sacred Emperor's daughter was added to the mix, he definitely wouldn't be able to hold out. No! Yin Tianfan and the others noticed that the Saint King's daughter was coming toward Luli. They were taken aback. Yin Tianfan knew very well that if Luli died, they would not survive either. Without any hesitation, Yin Tianfan said, "Go and stop that girl." Hoi! Yin Tianfan himself attacked and then turned around, trying to rush toward the Saint King's daughter. But Song Long and the others were not idiot. They would not let Yin Tianfan leave so easily. With Luli dead, they would be less stressed. As long as Luli was gone, Yin Tianfan and the others would have to wait for their doom. Therefore, the flag in Yin Tianfan's hand flew over and enveloped Yin Tianfan and himself. Yin Tianfan took out the tile. It was damaged, but it could hold on for a while. He wanted to stall Yin Tianfan for a while so that the Saint King's daughter could finish Luli. Hoi Tsang He fought back as well. He attacked Yin Rulan so that she could not help Luli. The other warriors of the Tsang family were doing the same. At first, they were struggling to defend. Now, they were the ones on the offense. Whoosh, whoosh, still, there were two warriors who dashed toward Luli, trying to help him. They stood on the way, looking at the Saint King's daughter who was coming toward them like a ghost. Both of them were trembling. Bang! Bang! The Saint Emperor's daughter suddenly sped up and floated past the two of them. Her two small white hands gently patted the two of them. Their chests burst open and they were smashed away. They spat out blood in midair. Their eyes rolled over and they died. Oh no, Luli looked at the two in midair. He felt he was looking at himself. He felt the Saint King's daughter was much more powerful than the male corpse. As long as her pretty hands touched him, he would die in an instant as well. Whoosh, the Saint King's daughter flew over. She was so fast that Luli could not see her clearly. All he saw was that she lifted her beautiful hand and patted at his head. A faintly discernible godly aura enveloped him, causing him to be unable to move his body. He could only watch as the hand floated towards his head. He is dead. Chapter 2399. Luli had been through many crises of life and death in his life. He had despaired many times. But this time, he felt the most helpless. He had many means, but none of them could help him when faced with the daughter of Saint King and the male corpse. At this moment, many thoughts flashed across his mind. He had thought of many things and many ways to solve the crisis. But in the end, his hands were tied. Whoosh, that hand was about to reach Luli's head in the next second. Right at that moment, something unexpected happened. The daughter of Saint King suddenly opened her eyes. There was a glint of struggle in her eyes. Her hand trembled as well. Luli was taken aback. The daughter of Saint King opened her eyes? And there was a glint of struggle in her eyes? Was the daughter of Saint King still alive? How was that possible? Whoosh! Before Luli could react, the daughter of Saint King dashed away. That hand brushed past Luli's ear and landed on the male corpse that was attacking Luli from behind. Boom! The male corpse was smashed away for thousands of feet. The daughter of the Saint King stopped. She stood hundreds of feet behind Luli. She was still struggling and she was trembling. What? Everyone was stunned. Not only Luli, Yin Tianfen, Yin Rulan, Song Long, and Song He were stunned as well. How can this be? Song Yen could not figure it out. He could not control the daughter of Saint King completely, but he could manage it. He could feel the spiritual connection with the daughter of Saint King was still there. He was not losing control. More importantly, the daughter of Saint King was dead. There was no sign of life on her. But she opened her eyes. In her eyes, there was a hint of struggle. She seemed to be alive. That was unbelievable. No one could figure it out, but Song Yan's reaction was still very fast. He shot out a few streams of divine power, which entered the sacred emperor's daughter's body. Buzzing, the daughter of Saint King was filled with killing intent. She closed her eyes again. She turned around and faced Luli, enveloping him with strong killing intent. He felt he had fallen into an ice cellar again. It was difficult for him to move. Master, help me! Right at that moment, Luli suddenly remembered Blood Fairy's message. She said in a hurry, "There are some spiritual imprints in the body. I cannot crack them and I cannot control the body completely. Do something to help me." Luli was stunned. Then, He realized that the reason why the daughter of Saint King did not attack him and even smashed away the male corpse was not because she had lost her mind, but because of Blood Fairy. Decipher? A remnant spiritual imprint? Luli did not have the time to think about how Blood Fairy could control the daughter of the Holy King. Many thoughts flashed across his mind. The daughter of the Holy King moved again. She floated toward Luli and lifted her beautiful hand again. Buzz, at this moment, Luli did something very strange. He didn't run away, nor did he attack with the godly iron. Instead, he sat on the ground with his legs crossed, took out a zither, and then began to play quickly. He was severely injured, so he couldn't run even if he wanted to. The physical defenses of the Saint Emperor's daughter were probably extremely terrifying. Even if he used godly metal to attack her, he probably wouldn't be able to severely injure her. On the other hand, if the daughter of Saint Emperor attacked him, he would die for sure. Therefore, Luli took the risk and took out the zither. He wanted to help Blood Fairy dissolve the spiritual imprint left by the daughter of Saint Emperor. The song was simple and not particularly pleasant to the ears, but the Een family was familiar with it. This was the first song composed of the musical notes in the palace outside. Okay. As the song began, the daughter of Saint King trembled. She stopped abruptly. She was only 10 feet away from Luli. Bang, bang, clank, clank. Luli played quickly. He was delighted as well. As he played, the daughter of Saint King was trembling more and more violently. This meant that the song could affect the daughter of Saint Emperor. If it could, then it could help Blood Fairy. Master, don't stop. Keep playing. Luli was relieved to hear Blood Fairy's voice. He was even less worried now that the male corpse was coming at him again. He was right. As the male corpse came, the daughter of Saint Emperor suddenly opened her eyes. She slapped at the male corpse with her pretty hand. Once again, the male corpse was smashed away. This time, the male corpse began to tremble as well. He seemed to be struggling. Oh no! Song Yen yelled, "Go and kill that warrior at the peak of the second tribulation. He is controlling the daughter of Saint Emperor. Once she is under his control, we will all die." In a moment of desperation, Song Yen did not even have the time to transmit his voice. Song Long and Song He had already noticed that something was wrong. They attacked Een Tianfan and Een Ruolin even more fiercely. They wanted to force them back so that they could attack Luli. The tables had turned. At first, Song Long and Een Ruolin were stalling Een Tianfan and Een Ruolin. Now, it was Een Tianfan and Een Ruolin's turn. Een Tianfan and Een Ruolin were excited. They attacked Song Long and Een Ruolin in a frenzy, not giving them a chance to escape. Charge! The Een family warriors were thrilled. The situation was clear. The daughter of Saint Emperor was the most lethal weapon. Whoever could control this weapon would have the upper hand. Luli kept on playing. The daughter of Saint Emperor was trembling more and more violently. Luli played faster and faster. The daughter of Saint Emperor's eyes were blinking. Luli and everyone else was nervous. Whether the daughter of Saint Emperor could be controlled depended on the life and death of both sides. Boom! Een Tianfan was smashed away. One of his arms was cut off. Song Long wanted to go after Een Qingrui, but Een Qingrui fought back with all his might. Een Tianfan's injuries were too serious. He had been fighting for such a long time that he was almost exhausted. Finally, he could not stand it any longer. Kill Een Ruolin first. A glint of anger rose in Song Long's eyes. If he could not injure or kill Een Ruolin, he could not go around to attack Luli. As soon as Song Long gave the order, everyone aimed at Een Ruolin. The latter was in grave danger. Bang! Once again, the male corpse was smashed away by the daughter of Saint Emperor. At this moment, the daughter of Saint Emperor opened her eyes. There was no sign of struggle in her eyes, only coldness. Okay. Blood Fairy's voice came to Luli's mind, which cheered him up. Master, the remnant of her soul has been erased. Now I have complete control over her body. Okay. Lu Li stood up. Looking at Song He, he said, "Do it. Kill Song He and Song Long first." Whoosh, the daughter of Saint Emperor flew over like a ghost and came to Rulin. Lu Li shouted, "Rulin, step back. I will take care of the rest." Okay. Rulin was losing it. Hearing Lu Li's words, she stepped back. The daughter of Saint Emperor dashed over and faced all the warriors of the Tsang family alone. Chapter 2400. Song Long and the others knew how strong the daughter of Saint King was. When the coffin was opened, 2 of them died. If it were not for the fact that Song Long and Song He used the holy weapon fragment and Song Yan's divine patterns, more would have died. They had thought that Song Yan could defeat all of them with the help of the Saint King's daughter and that male corpse. However, Lu Li had taken control of the daughter of the Saint Emperor, and she was much more powerful than that male corpse. Whoosh, the male corpse dashed over again toward Lu Li. The daughter of Saint King was about to go after Song Long and the others when she suddenly turned around and came to the male corpse. She slapped the head of the male corpse. This time, the male corpse did not fly away. He was frozen on the spot. The beautiful hand of the daughter of Saint King rested on the male corpse's head. The hand was glowing in a white light. The male corpse stopped moving. He seemed to be struggling. The evil spirit disappeared from the male corpse, and he began to retract his energy. In the time for 10 breaths, his energy was completely gone. He had become a real corpse without any signs of life. Whoosh! The daughter of Saint King turned around and looked at Song Long and the others. There was still no sign of life on her. Her eyes were as cold as ice. At this moment, everyone felt that the daughter of Saint King had come back to life. In other words, she was like a person without any signs of life. Lu Li took 2 healing pellets while he kept his eyes on the battle. He was surprised to see the daughter of Saint King in this state. An idea came to his mind. It seemed that Blood Fairy had not only taken control of the daughter of Saint King, but also possessed the body. The remnant soul mark of the body was gone. In other words, the body had lost its consciousness. However, the body was not damaged and was strong. It was a perfect shell. Blood Fairy was a goblin, a soul. When the remnant soul mark of the daughter of Saint King disappeared, it was not impossible for her to take the chance to enter the soul of the daughter of Saint King and merge with it perfectly. Lu Li had a feeling that the daughter of Saint King had come back to life even though she had no signs of life. Only when there was a soul in the body could the body truly come back to life. Otherwise, even if there were signs of life, without a soul, the body would still be a walking corpse. Xiao! The daughter of Saint King floated over. Lu Li did not have to control her. Blood Fairy had her own consciousness and could act on her own. Stop her! Song Long shouted, and a few people from the Tsang clan rushed forward. Song Yan also moved. He continuously shot out divine power, and he even took out a special treasure that shot out yellow light, trying to control the sacred emperor's daughter again. Bang bang, the sacred emperor's daughter got close to the Tsang clan's people. With a light wave of her hand, the 3 of them were sent flying with a bloody hole in their chests. Lu Li sensed with psychic power that there was a ray of white light in the daughter of Saint King's hand. The 3 warriors' lives were extinguished in an instant. Could it be that the sacred emperor's daughter still has a powerful energy within her? Lu Li could not figure it out. It had been millions of years since the ancient times. How could there be residual energy in the body? Unbelievable. Swish, swish, swish. Song Yan continuously shot out beams of divine power and white light, but the sacred emperor's daughter's body did not show any abnormalities. She did not even tremble at all. Kill! The Tsang family warriors' eyes were bloodshot. They knew very well that if they could not stop the sacred emperor's daughter, all of them would die. Since they were going to die anyway, there was no point in hesitating. They just had to put up a vigorous fight. Song Long and Song He turned to Yin Tianfan, Lu Li, and Yin Ruolin. The Sacred Emperor's daughter might not be able to stop the Sacred Emperor's daughter. If so, they might as well try to kill Lu Li and the others. Bang bang! Another 2 warriors rushed over and were killed by the Sacred Emperor's daughter. Song Yen tried many ways but failed to affect the Sacred Emperor's daughter. Song Yen had lost all hope. Song Long and Song He looked at each other. Neither of them hesitated. They winked at Song Yen and the 3 of them nodded at the same time. Buzzing! Song Yen took out the palace. He dashed toward the Sacred Emperor's daughter. Song Long and Song He, on the other hand, took a detour and dashed toward Lu Li. Buzzing! Almost at the same time, Song Yen made his move. The palace grew larger and enveloped him and the Sacred Emperor's daughter. Go to hell! Song Long and Song Yen were determined. They had their eyes on Lu Li. Clearly, they were ready to work together to kill Lu Li. Yin Tianfan and Yin Ruolin were badly injured. If they were to work together, Yin Tianfan might not survive. That being said, they still wanted to kill Lu Li. If it weren't for Lu Li, the Song family would have won completely. Not only would they suffer a crushing defeat, but they might even be wiped out. What was more, the Sacred Emperor's daughter was under Lu Li's control. As long as Lu Li was killed, the Sacred Emperor's daughter could be controlled again. By then, the situation could be turned around. Boom, boom, boom. From the palace Song Yen took out came some booming sounds. The divine glyphs were glowing. The entire palace was shaking. Clearly, the Sacred Emperor's daughter was trying to break it open. Whoosh! Song Long and Song Yen rushed over. Yin Tianfan struggled to stand up, but because his injuries were too severe, his body swayed and fell to the ground. Yin Ruolin was also injured, but she couldn't worry about that now. She rushed toward Song He. Charge! Yin Rui and the others rushed over. Lu Li released Ghostly Shadow and Spectre King and charged toward Song Long. Even though Lu Li himself was injured, he couldn't worry about that now. He rushed over with the relic iron in his hand. Boom, boom, boom. Yin Ruolin and Song He exchanged moves. Both of them were knocked away. They were injured by the glaring light from the holy weapon shard. They were already injured and they almost died. Boom, boom. Song He's holy weapon shard was damaged. He didn't take out the tile. Instead, he took out another treasure, a bronze bell. The bronze bell flew toward Lu Li in a blur. Bang! Lu Li swung the relic iron and smashed at the bronze bell. The relic iron emitted many divine glyphs and smashed at the bronze bell. Bang! The bronze bell cracked. Regular treasures could not stand the might of the relic iron. However, after the bell cracked, there came a muffled sound. The sound was like thunder, echoing in the minds of people nearby. Ah! Lu Li, Yin Rui and the others felt their souls were struck by lightning. They fell to the ground, hugged their heads and rolled around. They were bleeding from their eyes, ears, noses and mouth. Their souls were hurt. Even the Dark Spirit King's soul had been injured, and he rolled about on the ground as he let out a series of terrifying screams. It seemed as if he was in extreme pain. Ha ha ha! Die! Song Long was nearby but he wasn't hurt. He was ferocious as he dashed toward Lu Li. Chapter 2401. The bronze bell was an artifact from the ancient times. Originally, it was not that powerful. However, a senior warrior of the Song family modified it into a one-time use artifact. When it was smashed, it could let out a horrifying sound. Song Long was prepared. He used another artifact so the sound was ineffective against him. The bronze bell did not disappoint him. It created a good opportunity for him. Die! Lu Li was right in front of him. The killing intent in Song Long's eyes grew stronger. He exerted all his strength and smashed the tile at Lu Li. Lu Li's soul was almost torn apart. He could not fight back at all. He could only watch as the tile was getting bigger in front of him. Lu Li! Inrulin shouted in fear. However, she was smashed away just now, so she could not come to Lu Li's aid in time. In Tianfan also noticed the situation here. He struggled to get up, but it was obviously too late. Boom! Right at that moment, Song Yan's hall in the distance suddenly burst open. The daughter of Saint King flew out. She glanced over coldly. Seeing that Lu Li was about to die, the killing intent in her eyes grew stronger. Buzzing, the daughter of Saint King didn't charge toward Lu Li. Instead, she slapped at the ground. That palm strike caused the entire grand hall to tremble. Next, the bottom of the grand hall lit up with a dazzling light, causing the ground to tremble violently. A vast aura spread out from beneath the ground, instantly enveloping everyone there. At this moment, the entire hall seemed to have frozen in place. Everyone was unable to move, as they were all suppressed by the terrifying pressure. Song Long was only 10 feet away from Lu Li, but he couldn't even move a finger. Whoosh! The daughter of Saint King flew over like a ghost. She came to Song Long's back in an instant and slapped at Song Long with her pretty hand. Dead! Song Long was filled with anger and reluctance. He was so close to killing Lu Li, but he failed on the verge of success. He could not escape death. Bang! The pretty hand landed on Song Long's head. Song Long's head exploded at once. Without any suspense, he died. Brother Long! At this moment, everyone could move. Song Yen and the others howled in grief. On the other side, Song He's face became bitter. The sacred emperor's daughter was too strong. They couldn't stop her. Xiao! The daughter of Holy King flew over quickly and soon arrived at Song He's side. Song He did not choose to fight her head-on. Instead, he threw the holy weapon shard in his hand at the daughter of Holy King and then dashed toward the door through which Lu Li and the others came in. The gate was sealed to prevent Lu Li and the others from escaping. Since it could be sealed, it could naturally be unsealed as well. When Song Yen saw Song He trying to escape, he naturally understood. Song Yen and the others followed suit. Bang! With a gentle clap of her hand, the saint weapon fragment was easily knocked away. Afterwards, she did not chase after Song He and the others in a hurry. Instead, she continued to slap the ground. Buzz! The entire hall lit up again, and that terrifying pressure continued to descend. No one could move again. In a flash, the Saint Emperor's daughter appeared behind Song He and patted his head with one hand. A helmet appeared on Song He's head. But the helmet still exploded at once. Following that, Song He's head was crushed and he died on the spot. The rest were in despair. The death of Song Long and Song He was their last straw of hope. None of them had the desire to struggle anymore. Bang, bang, bang! The Saint Emperor's daughter dashed away. She slapped again and again. One by one, they died instantly. As expected, all of them died on the spot. Blood Fairy was not a human being. She had no human emotions. To her, apart from Lu Li, all humans were the same. To her, controlling the Saint Emperor's daughter to kill powerful human warriors was no different from a human killing a bunch of beasts. Phew, phew! When the last one was killed, Lu Li and the others felt relieved. Apart from Inrulin, the others had lost their dignity. They were either lying on the ground or sitting on the ground. Ha ha, Lu Li, well done. In Tianfan's injuries were serious. Even so, he could not help but grin. His smile infected the rest of them, and they all smiled triumphantly. Of the 100 that came in, only over 20 were left. All of them were wounded, and many of them were badly injured. In the distance there were many dead bodies. Some belonged to their enemies, and some belonged to their brothers and sisters. It was a tragic battle, but in the end, they had won. They survived. If it were not for Lu Li, all of them would have died. None of them would have been able to escape. Let's tend to our wounds first. Lu Li waved his hand. No matter what, they were so badly wounded that there was nothing they could do. Many of them could die if they did not tend to their wounds. They struggled to sit up and began to tend to their wounds. They all had top-level healing pellet. They recovered quickly after taking the pellet. Even though they were tending to their wounds, they were still immersed in the tragic battle. They were so excited that they could not calm down anytime soon. Luli was excited as well. He had been on the verge of death. Anyone would find it hard to stay calm. This time, all the Wind Warcraft were dead. The Phantom King was badly injured and Phantom Shadow seemed to be injured as well. The loss was great, but the gain was even greater. Not to mention the treasures in the Hall of Seven Sounds, the pieces of Songlong and Kang's holy weapon, and the daughter of the Holy King. The corpse was powerful, horribly so. It might not be comparable to a warrior of the Fifth Tribulation, but it could at least be at the peak of the Fourth Tribulation. They're both Emperor corpses, but why is the difference so big? Luli could not figure it out. He had used the body of Emperor Z, but the difference was like night and day. But on second thought, Emperor Z's body seemed to have lost its head. The human body was a natural formation. Without a head, the formation would be seriously damaged. It was understandable that the body's abilities would be impaired. Take that male corpse for example. He was strong, but there was a clear gap between him and the daughter of the Holy King. It was possible that the male corpse was killed while the daughter of the Holy King committed suicide. Her body was unharmed. Of course, there was another possibility. The daughter of the Holy King was of noble status. She had the bloodline of the Holy King. She might be from a super race. It was understandable that she was strong. Blood Fairy had taken over the body of the daughter of the Holy King. In other words, Luli had an extra fighter. He did not have to control this fighter. Blood Fairy had her own consciousness, and she knew how to control the body of the daughter of the Holy King better. Luli's mind wandered for a couple of hours. He had recovered a bit. Yin Tianfan and the others had recovered as well. Some of them opened their eyes and stared at the pieces of holy weapon and the interspatial rings of Songlong and Kang with excitement. But nobody dared to touch them. Strictly speaking, these were Luli's trophies. Luli opened his eyes. He waved his hand and said, "Tianfan, go and collect the treasures. Let's see how many there are and then we will decide how to distribute them." Distribute? Chapter 2402. All the corpses were collected and so were the interspatial rings of the enemies. Everything in the interspatial rings was taken out. Treasures and materials were piled up like mountains, dazzling everyone. Of course, many of the treasures and materials belonged to the warriors themselves. There were many elixirs. The most important ones were the interspatial rings of Tsang He and Tsang Yen, which contained many ancient treasures. After sorting them out, Qin Wentian separated the ancient treasures. There were a total of over 40 ancient treasures, and all of them looked very obvious. The divine inscriptions on them were completely different from the treasures they had now. Tsang Yen and Tsang Long's holy weapon pieces were in there as well. Those were the most important treasures. The warriors were excited. What did they come here for? The first reason was history. The second reason was to fight for supremacy. The third reason was for treasures. They were all risking their lives. Nobody would be happy if they could not gain anything. "Luli," Yin Tianfan said, setting the tone, "you have done the most this time. If it were not for you, we would all be dead. So, you can have the right to distribute the treasures. We will be fine even if you take all of them." Yin Tianfan was an ambitious man. He was a man of principle and reason. Yin Rulan nodded and said, "Luli, take all of them." The others didn't say anything and just looked at Luli. Of course, there was some expectation in their eyes. Luli had been very generous before. What was more, he had said to distribute. Clearly, he was going to let go of some treasures. Though they did not have much hope, they were still looking forward to it. Luli looked around and said, "Give me all the elixirs for body refinement. I need them." Nobody had any objection. They could give all the elixirs to Luli. Yin Tianfan waved his hand. Incheng walked over, identified the elixirs and took out more than 500 to give to Luli. Luli put on a smile. He had obtained a lot of elixirs this time, enough to support him for several years. After refining all of these divine medicines, his physical body should be able to strengthen by another level. Luli took the elixirs and looked at the ancient treasures. He thought about it and said, I don't want the 2 pieces of holy weapon. I have one. Having one holy artifact fragment was enough. There was no point in having more. Giving it to the Yin clan would be a huge favor. Yin Tianfan and the others were cheered up. Luli was giving way too much. The 2 pieces of holy weapon were priceless. Incheng was especially excited. Now that he had brought back 2 holy weapon fragments, it was very likely that the clan would bestow one to him. The others were nervous. If Luli did not want the holy weapon shard, then he must want the ancient treasures. How many would he want? Can you leave some dregs for everyone? Luli glanced over to the holy weapon fragments. All of a sudden, he noticed something. He turned to the pile of materials and said, There must be 20 to 30 billion divine stones here, right? Can you give them all to me? Godstone? The group of people touched their noses in embarrassment. The Godstone was the most useless, so they didn't even look at it. None of the clans lacked divine stones. There were many treasures and divine medicines that couldn't be bought with divine stones, so what was the use of divine stones? Others might not need divine stones, but Luli did. He believed that he would have to go to the Flying Fire continent after this. Many divine stones would be needed along the way, which was why Luli asked. This time, Incheng didn't wait for Yin Tianfan to say anything. He rushed over, packed up all the divine stones and handed them to Luli. Luli was giving up 2 pieces of holy weapon fragments, and one of them was likely to go to Yin Tianfan. Naturally, Yin Tianfan had to be polite. Yin Tianfan and the others said nothing. They just looked at Luli. Luli smiled, pointed to the pile of ancient treasures and said, I will take 3 of these. You can distribute the rest. 3? Everyone was stunned as if they had heard it wrong. There were more than 40 pieces of ancient treasures in front of them. They would be grateful if Luli only took half, not all of them. However, they didn't expect that Luli only wanted 3. They could accept it even if he wanted 10. After a moment of surprise, Yin Tianfan was completely convinced by Luli. He forced a smile and said, Luli, this is not right. What do you think we are doing by taking only 3? No matter how shameless we are, we can't take so many. Luli had made the biggest contribution and he had saved everyone's lives. How could they have a clear conscience when he took a small portion and the others took a big portion? They wouldn't do something like this no matter how shameless they were. Ha ha. Luli smiled lightly and waved his hand. I already have 2 pieces of ancient treasures. They are hard to consume and I will have to put them aside. So many of our brothers and sisters have come in and so many have died. It is normal to give them some compensation. What is more? I picked first. Of course, I will pick the best. Don't be so polite. My relationship with the Yin family is deeper than you can imagine. As soon as Luli finished his words, everyone was stunned. They were filled with admiration. Luli was broad-minded and he really saw the Yin family as his own. Okay, enough with the pleasantries. Now take your pick. Yin Tianfan puckered his lips. He didn't refuse anymore. Luli walked over. He didn't even look at the treasures. Instead, he walked directly to the pile of treasures and picked up 3 pieces. Blood Fairy already knew. Even though Blood Fairy had taken over the body of the daughter of Holy King, she could reach out her tentacles. Her tentacles had already reached into the pile of treasures to check. Luli was generous and only asked for 3 pieces of treasures. But he was not so generous that he would give away all the good stuff. It was very difficult to refine ancient treasures, so he only asked for 3 of the best treasures and that was enough. Of the 3 treasures he chose, one was a beautiful warblade. It was most likely the weapon of the Holy King's daughter, and Blood Fairy had said that it was very powerful. The other one was an armor. It was not the most powerful piece of treasure, but it was strong nonetheless. Lu Li's defense was strong. That being said, he would be happy to have another layer of defense. Lu Li did not understand the third piece of treasure. It was a landscape painting. The artistic conception was good. But apart from the artistic conception, there was nothing special about it. There were no complicated divine patterns. That being said, Blood Fairy emphasized one thing: this painting must be taken. This was the most powerful of all the treasures. Since Blood Fairy had emphasized it, Lu Li naturally valued this painting. He put away the 3 pieces of treasure and came back. Tianfan, you can take care of the rest. I am satisfied. As a matter of fact, Lu Li didn't think the most valuable thing was the physical body of the daughter of Holy King. Blood Fairy had always wanted to find a body to possess. The body of the Holy Emperor's daughter was perfect, and it was also ridiculously strong. Chapter 2403. It had to be said that Yin Tianfan was a very bold person. He took 2 saint weapon fragments and 15 other treasures. The rest were distributed among the survivors. He promised that he would give 5 of the 15 ancient treasures as compensation for the families that suffered heavy losses. Originally, when they came here, life and death were predetermined. The treasures belonged to whoever obtained them. This was a rule that had been set. Therefore, those who died could only blame themselves for their lack of strength and bad luck. The treasures belonged to Lu Li and he gave them to Yin Tianfan. In other words, Lu Li was giving all the treasures to the Yin family. After all, Lu Li had nothing to do with those families. He was doing favors for the Yin family, not the other families. Now that Yin Tianfan was sharing the treasures with them, those warriors were moved to tears and acknowledged Yin Tianfan. Those who could survive were the elite. In the future, they would become the masters of their families. Now that they had acknowledged Yin Tianfan, he would gain support from many when he became the leader. I need to go back, Lu Li said to Yin Tianfan after he finished distributing the treasures. Yin Rulan asked with a frown, "What are you going to do? We have searched the halls and side chambers. There is nothing left. I need to send the male corpse back." Lu Li replied, "The daughter of Saint King left behind a strand of her mind. She wants me to take good care of the male corpse. I want to put him back in the coffin." It was Blood Fairy who sent this message. Therefore, Lu Li did not touch the fragment of holy weapon in the male corpse. If the fragment of holy weapon was taken out, the corpse might rot and turn into a pile of bones. Naturally, the daughter of Saint King must be taken away. In the future, she would be Blood Fairy's host. The male corpse was not particularly strong. Since this was the last wish of the daughter of Saint King, Lu Li would fulfill it for her. "You are going to put him back in the coffin? What if someone else comes in?" Yin Rulan asked with a frown. "If someone comes in, the male corpse will be consumed. We will still be disturbed." "That's okay," Lu Li replied with a smile. "If I am right, when we go out, the main pattern of the Hall of 7 Tones will be activated automatically. By then, the Hall of 7 Tones will disappear into the void. Nobody will be able to find it." "Alright." Yin Rulan nodded. Lu Li put away the male corpse and went to the entrance with the Saint King's daughter. The Saint King's daughter cracked the seal with a gentle pat. Lu Li went back to the first hall. Putting the male corpse back into the coffin, Lu Li asked Blood Fairy to put some runes on the coffin and then returned. "Blood Fairy, break open the portal's divine runes," Lu Li said. Then he said to the others, "Let us heal and rest first. When we are fully recovered, we will go out. The Tsang family must know that Tsang Long and the others are dead. We will be in danger if we go out. We must be careful. This should be fine." Yin Rulan smiled faintly and said, "The 6th ancestor and the clan head will probably come to the vicinity to receive us. The Tsang clan won't dare to make a move." Lu Li nodded. Still, he closed his eyes and sat with his legs crossed to heal. So did the others. Blood Fairy quickly broke through the spell formation, and it only took her half a day to do so. This was mainly because she had refined the spiritual imprint of the daughter of the Holy Emperor, so she had some understanding of the divine inscriptions here. 5 days later, most of the wounds were almost healed. Luli waved his hand and said, "Let's go." They stood up and took out their treasures. Een Tianfan and Een Rulan took the lead and dashed into the portal, followed by Luli and the others. Many people were standing outside the Hall of Seven Tones. Both the Tsang family and the Een family had sent powerful warriors. Of course, the crippled Zen master, the patriarch of the Een family, and the Tsang family did not show up. Ostensibly, they were all patriarchs. Everyone left their jade talismans of life when they went in. Everyone outside knew that their jade talismans of life were broken. A few days ago, the Tsang family learned that the 100 warriors of the Tsang family had all died. The Tsang family was grieving, especially Tsang Long, Tsang Chang, and Tsang Yen. Those were the most powerful warriors of the young generation of the Tsang family. The death of the three was a great loss for the Tsang family. The Tsang family had many disciples. However, to raise several talents like these, not only resources were needed, luck was needed as well. When the Tsang family patriarch learned the news, he secretly came with powerful warriors of the family. He planned to kill Een Tianfan and the others when they came out. If they could kill Een Tianfan and the others, then it would be a draw. More importantly, with Tsang Long and the others gone, the treasures in the Hall of Seven Tones would be taken by Een Tianfan and the others. If they could get the treasures as well, then the Tsang family could recoup some of their losses. Buzzing today, the Hall of Seven Tones glowed. Powerful warriors of the two families guarding nearby were alerted. Many people used psychic power to check on the Hall of Seven Tones, waiting for the ones inside to come out. Buzzing, buzzing, 2 streaks of light came out. Een Tianfan and Een Rulan. The patriarchs of the Een family were delighted, and they dashed toward them. Charge! Almost at the same time, the patriarchs of the Tsang family took actions. More than 30 warriors of the Fourth Tribulation rushed toward Een Tianfan and Een Rulan. Tsang Feng, you are tens of thousands of years old. How dare you do this to children? Shame on you! A powerful patriarch of the Een family shouted in rage. He targeted the Tsang family warriors from the distance and began to attack. The other powerful warriors of the Een family were divided into 2 teams. One team went to stop the warriors of the Tsang family, and the others went to protect Een Rulan and Een Tianfan. Buzzing, buzzing, Luli and the others came out as well. The fight between the powerful warriors of the Tsang family and the Een family had begun. Luli had put away the daughter of the Saint King. He didn't dare to let her out now. He had to keep a close eye on the situation. The number of patriarchs of the Tsang family and the Een family was similar. They were evenly matched. 2 patriarchs of the Een family were fast. They came to the Tsang family at once and stopped the sneak attack from the patriarchs of the Tsang family. Buzzing, space was torn apart in midair. Then 3 old men in luxurious robes came out. The 3 of them were more horrifying than the ancient male corpse. As soon as they came out, they felt the space around them was frozen. Tsang Sui. The patriarchs of the Tsang family were taken aback. The family patriarch of the Tsang family was here. In order to kill some juniors, he had lost his dignity. The death of Tsang Long and the others must have made him lose his cool. Ha ha ha, Tsang Sui, your disciples are not good enough. A loud laugh came. The space behind Luli began to tremble. A space portal was opened and 3 people came out. Een Tianfan and Een Rulan were delighted. Their family patriarch was here as well. Bang bang bang. From the distance came some heavy footstep. Then, an old man with a walking stick and a hunched back walked over slowly. He was walking in midair. He seemed to be moving slowly, but he had reached Luli, Een Rulan and Een Tianfan in just 2 steps. But when they took a closer look, they realized that the man was only an illusion. It looked real, but it was a real illusion created by a powerful skill. Forefather 6. Roland shouted in delight. The most powerful warrior of the family was here. Even if the Tsang family had twice as many people, they wouldn't be able to hurt them, let alone the Tsang family. The crippled Zen master? Tsang Sui, the family patriarch of the Tsang family, threw the crippled Zen master a look. He was unwilling and angry, but he waved his hand decisively and said, "Let's go." The Tsang family knew about the crippled Zen master. They had thought that the crippled Zen master wouldn't show up in this kind of matter. Little did they expect that he would come. Now that the crippled Zen master was here, if they didn't leave, then more than half of them would have to stay. He was a fierce warrior that once followed Emperor Z. Whoosh, the Tsang family warriors left quickly. They vanished into the distance in a blink. The patriarchs of the family wanted to go after them, but they stopped since the crippled Zen master and the family patriarch didn't give any orders. Well done. The crippled Zen master's illusion smiled. He was not looking at Tianfan or Rulan, but at Luli. He nodded and said, "I am right about you. Let's go back." Chapter 2404. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Luli had expected, the Hall of Seven Tones glowed when everyone came out. Then, with a tremble, the Hall of Seven Tones sank into the pond. Family patriarch and Tianfan talked for a while, and then flew back to the nearby cities. Then, they teleported back to the Broken Sword Mountain. Luli went back to his own manor. One day later, the family patriarch of the family came in person with 3 patriarchs. He had to come because Luli had done the family a great favor. Not only did Luli save everyone, but he also gave the family many ancient treasures, including 2 pieces of holy weapon. Luli did not claim credit for himself. That being said, he approved of the family even more. After some small talk, Luli made a request. He hoped that the family could open up a long-distance spatial gate for him to the Windland. To open such a long-distance spatial gate would cost a lot. Family patriarch expressed his willingness to help without any hesitation. But it would take some time, at least 3 months, to build such a spatial gate. After family patriarch left, Qin Zhan and Gon Lin came over. Luli told them that he would leave in 3 months. Naturally, they wanted to go with him, but they knew very well that it was pointless for them to go. Staying at the family was the best option. Luli took out some elixirs and gave them to them. He didn't give them the ancient treasures. It was not that he did not want to, but that they were too weak. An innocent man would get into trouble because of his treasures. If someone knew that they had the ancient treasures, they might not have the guts to steal them for 3 to 5 years. But in 8 to 10 years someone would. The crippled Zen master could not keep an eye on them all the time. If there were 1 or 2 scums in the family, or if other families found out, they could kill the 2 secretly and take the ancient treasures for themselves. The 3 of them sat and drank for half a day. When the 2 left, Luli sat in the yard to rest. He summed up the gains and losses of this trip. All in all, he had gained a lot from this trip to the Hall of Seven Tones. The daughter of a Saint King was the biggest gain. Luli had a super bodyguard and a perfect body for Blood Fairy. The Wind Warcraft were all dead and Phantom was badly injured. Without a good soul to devour, it would be hard for him to recover. The Phantom King had also sustained severe injuries, but he quickly recovered. He had acquired 5 ancient treasures, none of which he could refine, so he had Blood Fairy do it for him. In addition, his physical body had improved significantly. After being tempered in the 2 extremes palace's flames for so long and absorbing half a pool of Qingrue's holy water, his physical body had improved by several fold. Let's take a nap. After a while, Luli fell asleep at once. 2 days later, A maid told him that Rulin had been here and asked him to go and find her when he woke up. After Luli took a bath, he was led to Rulin's palace by an escort. Rulin showed Luli to where the crippled Zen master lived at once. The crippled Zen master wanted to see Luli. Rulin brought Luli into the cabin and waited outside. The crippled Zen master opened his eyes, looked at Luli and said, "Ready to go?" Luli nodded and said, "I will have to leave sooner or later. It takes time for my strength to improve by leaps and bounds. There is no difference between staying here for 1 or 2 years and staying here for 8 or 10 years. Yes. It is good for young people to be spirited." The crippled Zen master thought about it and said, "You have the body of the Saint King's daughter. You have grown much stronger. But I have noticed that your path of cultivation is off the right track. You have been relying on external help. This is not the right way." Ha ha! Luli forced a smile. He understood what the crippled Zen master was talking about. He had been relying on external help along the way. First, he had the immortal's body. Then, he had the Worm of the Void, the Phantom King, the Wind Warcraft, and now, the Saint King's daughter. This was not his intention. At every stage, his enemies were too strong. Sometimes, the external help he had was stronger than him. Sometimes, he had to rely on external help. Otherwise, he would have died a long time ago. Luli bowed and said, "Thank you for the reminder. I will be careful." The crippled Zen master thought about it and said, "The Silver Flame Sea is in a mess. I cannot offer you any help. Let me give you a human skin mask. This is a piece of treasure. Only those below the Great Emperor realm will be able to see through you. Together with the Void Crossing skill, you will have a better chance of escaping." Buzzing, the crippled Zen master took out a human skin mask. He did not give it to Luli at once. Instead, he seemed to be recalling the past and exclaimed, "Back in the days, I was known as the Lord of Changes. With the shape-shifting mask and the Void Crossing skill, I killed more than half of a super family. It is a pity that time has passed." The crippled Zen master handed the shape-shifting mask to Luli. Luli took it over with respect and bowed to the crippled Zen master again. "Off you go, off you go." The crippled Zen master waved his hand and said, "You don't have to say goodbye before you leave. If you can come back from the Flying Fire continent, come to the Broken Sword Mountain again." "Yes, sir. Take care." Luli clasped his fists and said, "I want to see Qingxi before I leave. Is that okay?" "Don't disturb his cultivation." The crippled Zen master waved his hand. Luli left and went to the secret realm with Rulin. He stood in the secret realm for a while and saw Qingxi before he went back to his yard. For the rest of the time, Luli had been cultivating. He didn't attend the banquet invited by Tianfan. He planned to lie low for a couple of months to calm himself down so that he would be safer at the Godly Wind continent. There was a Phoenix Queen at the Godly Wind continent. If Luli's whereabouts were discovered, she would send someone to hunt him down. Luli could die a tragic death if he was not careful enough. Soon, 3 months passed. The family was ready. After some tests to make sure that the portal was open, the family patriarch of the family sent someone to inform Luli that he could depart at any time. Luli came out from cultivation. The family held a grand farewell banquet for him. Those who went to the Hall of 7 Tones with Luli were all here. Many young masters and young ladies of the family were here, including the family patriarch. But after a few toasts and a few words, the family patriarch left, leaving the space for the younger generation. Luli. Rulin came over with a goblet of wine. After a few toasts she said sincerely, "The journey is long and full of dangers. You must be careful and endure as much as you can. The Silver Flame Sea is the most dangerous. You must keep a low profile there. Qingxi. I can tell that she likes you very much. So, I hope you can come back successfully. By then, you can be a family." Luli forced a smile. He was not confident that he could make it to the Flying Fire continent. He might not even be able to cross the Silver Flame Sea. He didn't even know if he could come back to the Broken Sword Mountain. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin came over. They didn't waste any more words. They just drank with Lu Li. In the end, Lu Li and Gan Lin both came back drunk. Chapter 2405. Divine Wind Continent. This continent was in the middle of the 3 layers of heaven. It wasn't the biggest, but it wasn't the smallest either. There were a few Emperor Realm warriors and many powerful clans and races. However, it wasn't the strongest or the weakest. Therefore, the Divine Wind Continent didn't have a strong presence, far inferior to the Silver Flame Sea region in the north. The Divine Wind Continent got its name because the wind here was especially strong, and there were many experts who had comprehended the wind intent here. There were often strong tornadoes, gales, thunderstorms, and so on. The warriors here were generally very fast because most of them could comprehend some wind intent from the strange winds. Full Moon Territory, Full Moon Lake. This was the center of the Divine Wind Continent. This lake was quite famous, and the scenery was very beautiful. Admiring the moon in the lake was a special charm. This was not a charm that ordinary people would feel. There was a kind of heaven and earth Tao charm here. The wind here was very gentle, making people feel very comfortable. Tonight, the full moon lake was even more lively, because a few very famous young ladies came here tonight to admire the moon, attracting a lot of young talent. The lake was under martial law. Dozens of big ships were wandering in the lake, and one of them was hosting a banquet. Ha ha ha! The young generation of the entire southern full moon territory belongs to young Master Feng and young Lady Yuan. If you two don't show up, who dares to compete? Yes, young Master Feng and young Lady Yuan are here at Full Moon Lake. It is our honor to be able to attend this banquet. Come, come, come. Everyone, raise your glasses to them. Yes, tonight is a beautiful night. Young Lady Yuan, young Lady Chen, and young Lady Hua are here. The full moon lake is even more beautiful. Therefore, we should drink a toast. The big ship was very lively. The young masters and young ladies of the full moon territory were in a good mood. Plus, the scenery tonight was really good. After a few glasses of wine, they were even more excited. Buzz, the sky above the big ship suddenly fluctuated. Then, a huge golden gate appeared, attracting everyone's attention at Full Moon Lake. Territory Gate? Such a big territory gate. How far did it come from? Is it not from the Divine Wind Continent? Such a long territory gate can only be opened by the super families. Seems like a big shot is coming. Don't speak. Don't disturb the important people. The big and small boats below immediately became lively. However, no one dared to speak and just stared at the domain gate above. Xiao! A figure flew down from the sky and crashed into the big ship that was hosting the banquet like a cannonball. He smashed through the ship and landed in the big cabin where everyone was hosting the banquet. The group of people did not react in time because the speed at which the person fell was too fast. In addition, the group of people thought that it was a super expert, so they did not dare to rashly move. Only when the person smashed into them did they come to their senses. Many people retreated as if they were facing a great enemy. They looked at this person, and after a few glances, they were all stunned. This was because the person who was teleported over was not a super expert, but a peak second tribulation cultivator. Furthermore, he was a white-haired young man. This person looked very weak. Although he had not fainted, he could not open his eyes. His face was pale, and his body was still trembling. The space gate above was closed. After everyone confirmed that no one was teleported out, they all became bolder. Young Master Feng saw that this person had smashed many tables in the banquet. When he saw the mess on the ground, his face turned gloomy. He asked, "Who are you? Which clan are you from?" The person did not answer. He quickly took out an elixir and swallowed it. Then, He closed his eyes and lay on the ground to recover. Young Master Feng was a little angry. As the first young master of a big clan in the southern part of the Full Moon Territory, he had spent a lot of effort on this banquet. His target was naturally young Lady Yuan. In the end, he was disrupted by this person. At this moment, this person was still ignoring him, which made him feel very embarrassed. Although this person came over by a super long-distance space gate, he was indeed at the peak of Tier 2. What's more, his soul spirit was so weak. It was obvious that he could not withstand such a long-distance teleportation. From this point of view, this person was not very strong. If you do not answer me, I will have to offend you, young Master Feng shouted again. This person still did not respond. Young Master Feng waved his hand and said, "Someone, take him down!" Swish. A fourth tribulation cultivator from the outer sect immediately rushed over and grabbed this person's head with a big hand. Right at that moment, that person finally reacted. A bead glowed and a huge beast appeared outside. The violent chi and energy spread out, making many people tremble. Bang bang bang! That huge beast waved its body and the violent chi and energy spread out. The ship exploded and people scattered like birds, startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. The person that flew out from the space gate was grabbed by the huge beast. He opened his eyes weakly and said, "I did not mean to offend you. Don't mess with me. I will leave in a bit." Yes, this person was Luli, who came through the space gate from the Broken Sword Mountain. Even though his soul was strengthened, traveling such a long distance still made his soul weak. He almost passed out. This young Master Feng and Lady Yuan were quite powerful, but they were only at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation realm. They were protected by 4 warriors at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation realm. Luli could tell that they were not the top young masters of a super family. Therefore, Luli was not afraid. He planned to leave after his soul recovered a bit. He was really weak now. Everyone was dumbfounded. The Phantom King's aura was still very terrifying. This was a second tribulation pinnacle being who had traveled such a long distance to come here. Just a random battle beast that he had released was already so powerful. Could he be someone from a super clan? Young Master Feng's eyes flickered. He shouted again, "I am Huang Feng, from the Huang family of the Plenilune Territory. You better tell me who you are or you will hurt our friendship." Luli knew everything about the Plenilune Territory. He thought about it and asked, "Plenilune Territory? Are we at the Wind Continent?" Everyone's eyes glowed. Luli didn't know where they were? So he was not from the Wind Continent. Then what else did they have to worry about? "Take him down," Huang Feng shouted. Today's banquet was ruined by this outsider. They must vent their anger no matter what. It would be nice if they could get something good from this person. Whoosh! 2 warriors of the fourth tribulation rushed over. Luli sighed to himself. He ordered Ghost Master to beat them back and leave this person. Luli didn't kill them. It was irrational to offend several big families as soon as he arrived here. It was not a big deal. Besides, he had ruined someone else's banquet. Whoosh! Ghost Master carried Luli in one hand and dashed away with his claws. In a few flashes, the 2 warriors of the fourth tribulation were smashed away. "Let's go," Luli ordered Ghost Master. Ghost Master flew into the distance with Luli in a blur. Young Master Feng flew into a rage and said, "You want to run away after hurting people? Send a message back and ask our powerful warriors to hunt this man down." Chapter 2406. The Huang family was a wealthy family at the Moonview territory, but not a family of a lord. When the Huang family got the news, they didn't show much respect to young Master Feng. They only sent 3 warriors at the middle stage of the fourth tribulation to go after Luli. The main reason was that Luli had opened a super space gate and he had a beast as powerful as the Phantom King. What if he was a young master of a super family? Therefore, the Huang family only sent 3 warriors at the middle stage of the 4th tribulation and sent some scouts to track Luli. They were just putting on a show to show young Master Feng some respect. Luli was being carried by the Phantom King. The Phantom King was much faster than the escorts young Master Feng brought with him. Luli told the Phantom King to fly in the wild as much as possible instead of going to cities. Luli himself sat on the Phantom King's shoulder and closed his eyes to recover. The weakness of the soul was fatal. Not only would his abilities be reduced, he wouldn't even be able to fly in the void, or he would die in the void. The Phantom King had been flying for more than 2 hours. He had lost the pursuers, but the scouts of the Huang family could still track him down. After all, this was the territory of the Huang family, and the Phantom King was so eye-catching. The 3 patriarchs of the Huang family had teleported here. There were many times when they could have taken actions, but they didn't. It was more like they were monitoring Luli and escorting him away from the territory of the Huang family rather than following him. As long as Luli didn't make trouble, they wouldn't really attack him. This was not a big deal. If Luli was from a super family, it could bring trouble to the Huang family. The Phantom King chose to fly through the wilderness, and after flying for over 2 hours, he arrived at a vast expanse of wilderness. There was no trace of anyone here. There were powerful beasts lurking in the wilderness. Even though Luli was recovering his soul, he would check with psychic power every now and then. He didn't pay too much attention to the beasts here since they were not powerful. Report. In a city near the wilderness, the 3 patriarchs of the Huang family were there. A scout leader rushed over and reported, "Patriarchs, that man is flying toward the Winter Sun Valley. I think he will arrive in 2 hours." What? The 3 patriarchs of the Huang family frowned. They looked at each other in surprise. Did Luli find the Winter Sun Valley by accident or on purpose? The Winter Sun Valley was a treasure trove of the Huang clan. It had only been discovered a few months ago, and they were currently setting up divine runes over there. This news was considered a top secret within the Huang clan. Let's go to Winter Sun Valley. Either way, since Luli had gone to the Winter Sun Valley, they must go there. Otherwise, if the Winter Sun Valley was destroyed by Luli, it would be a great loss for the Huang family. The 3 elders soared into the sky as fast as they could. At the same time, countless scouts rushed out of the city towards the Winter Sun Valley. There were also people who quickly sent the news back to the Huang family. Of course, Luli didn't do it on purpose. He just went there by accident. He knew nothing about the Godly Wind continent. If he had known that it was the treasured land of the Huang family, he would have avoided it. The Phantom King continued to fly at high speed. More and more ferocious beasts appeared around him. Thankfully, they weren't particularly strong, and the Phantom King was able to deal with them with ease. Luli had some time to recover. His soul was feeling better, but it would take him several days to fully recover. He had thought about finding a place to hide and have a good rest. However, on the thought that the pursuers might catch up with them and make a scene, he told the Phantom King to move on. But as soon as they moved forward, something happened. 2 hours later, Dark Spirit King arrived at a massive valley. There were over 100 scouts and close to 10,000 soldiers stationed outside the valley. When the scouts and warriors found out the Phantom King's whereabouts, they rushed over and began to attack without any hesitation. The Winter Sun Valley was a treasured land. When the scouts and warriors were sent over, they were given a strict order that they would kill anyone that tried to force their way into the valley. Boom, boom, boom. Luli opened his eyes at once, thinking that the Huang Feng family had sent someone after him. Ow, ow! The Phantom King, however, was enraged. How dare those puny insects attack him? The Phantom King dashed into the crowd. With a sweep of his claws, 2 warriors were crushed. Luli sat on the Phantom King's shoulder. He didn't stop the Phantom King from killing. There were too many people here and they were surrounded. How could they break out without killing some of them? The Phantom King wandered around in the crowd like a ghost. Warriors were torn apart and bodies were flying around. Average warriors could not stand a chance against the Phantom King. Though many attacks landed on the Phantom King and Luli, they were all from the Third Tribulation warriors. None of them could break the defense of the Phantom King and Luli. "How dare you!" From the Winter Sun Valley came two angry shouts. Then, two people flew over. One of them shouted, "Who are you? How dare you kill people of the Huang family? Are you trying to make an enemy out of the Huang family? Surrender immediately, or we'll kill you without mercy." Middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation. Huang family? Luli frowned again. He was confused. These people were from the Huang family, but they didn't know him. Were they not sent by the Huang Feng family? Did he just happen to arrive at an important place of the Huang family? Two warriors at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation were coming. Even if Luli told the Phantom King to run as fast as he could, he would not be able to get away. Luli's soul was too weak to fly in the void. Therefore, he only had one way to go, and that was to repel the people here and then escape. The Phantom King could not deal with two warriors at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation unless Luli used the holy weapon fragment. But how could he do that when he was so weak? Buzzing, Luli had no other choice but to let the daughter of the Holy King out. He ordered Blood Fairy coldly, "Kill the two warriors at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation." "Yes, master," Blood Fairy answered calmly. For her, apart from Luli, she had nothing to do with any human beings. She would not be soft-hearted even if she had to kill hundreds of millions. Whoosh, the daughter of the Holy King was not strong. Maybe it was because her body was complete that she could release her energy at will without leaking out. Therefore, when the daughter of the Holy King came out, people only thought she was a stunning beauty. But this beauty was special. She had no signs of life. She was as cold as an iceberg. Her eyes were open, but there was not a trace of human emotion in them. Whoosh, the daughter of the Holy King flew out. Before many people could react, she had already landed a hand on the head of a warrior at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation. Bang, like a watermelon being cracked, the head of that patriarch, who was so powerful in the eyes of all the warriors, was crushed. He was smashed away and smashed into the mountain outside the valley, sinking deep into the ground. "What?" the other warrior gasped in horror. He looked at the daughter of the Holy King as if he were looking at a ghost. Whoosh! Blood Fairy did not hesitate. Her body flickered as she charged forward. The patriarch finally came back to his senses. The saber in his hand glowed as he hacked at the daughter of the Holy King's head. The daughter of the Holy King reached out one hand to resist the relic weapon. With a muffled sound, the relic weapon was smashed away. The daughter of the Holy King did not step back. She did not even tremble. She kept on moving. The second warrior at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation was killed easily. The rest of the warriors were dumbfounded. They were not at the same level. What was the point of fighting? Two patriarchs who were as powerful as immortals had been killed in an instant. Staying here would be futile. Run! The soldiers paused for a moment, then turned into birds and beasts and fled in all directions. Luli did not go after them. He flew the Phantom King away and put away the daughter of the Holy King. He wanted to take a detour and move on. Looking at the valley up ahead, he had an idea. There must be treasures in the valley since two warriors at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation were here. Since Luli had killed a patriarch of the Huang family, he would not miss out on any treasures. Chapter 2407. The Valley of Winter's Sun used to be the lair of some ferocious beasts. Because of the large number of ferocious beasts, no one had ever discovered it. A few months ago, a powerful warrior was being hunted down. He snuck into the valley to hide from his enemies. By accident, he discovered that there was treasure hidden in the valley. The treasure was a strange kind of crystals which were rare. Of the entire Windland, only 3 places had them. This was the 4th one, and there was a large amount of them. After the warrior escaped, he realized that he could not take possession of the treasure on his own. Therefore, he used this information as a proof of loyalty and joined the Huang family. He became a patriarch of the Huang family. After the warrior killed his enemies, the Huang family sealed off the place. They did not start mining. Instead, they sent someone to set up runes here. They planned to seal off the place and start mining later. Little did they expect that Luli would come here by chance and kill the 2 powerful patriarchs guarding here so easily. Luli went into the valley and noticed many runes. He used psychic power to check but found nothing. There was nothing in the valley. There are runes underground. Luli went down and found that the entire bottom of the valley was covered with runes. He let out the Saint King's daughter at once. Her hand glowed as a blood-red tentacle reached out and pierced into the ground. A moment later, Blood Fairy sent a voice transmission. "Master, there are many black crystals under the divine patterns. And those crystals contain very pure energy. They should be very high-grade crystals." Blood Fairy did not know about the crystals, so she told Luli what she found. Without any hesitation, Luli asked Blood Fairy to crack the runes. The runes were not of high level. They were just to prevent others from exploring the treasures. In the time for 10 breaths, Blood Fairy had cracked all the runes. Luli could sense with psychic power as well. There were many black crystals in the ground. They came in clusters and each cluster contained dozens of crystals. Hoi! Luli generated a huge hand claw and dug a hole in the ground. He locked on to a cluster of crystals and grabbed all the mud and stones in an area with a radius of 3 feet. Crack, crack, crack. Maybe it was because Luli's claw was too powerful. Half of the crystals in the ball were shattered. Those crystals should be fragile and could be broken easily. Luli didn't know what this type of crystal was. He took one out from the stone and found it quite beautiful. There was indeed pure energy contained in it, and it was powerful. Put it away first. Luli didn't think too much about it. He put it into the separation bead, and then released more and more hand shadows to dig out more and more crystals from the ground. Every time Luli did this, a small part of the crystals would crack. Luli thought it was a pity, but he didn't mind. The main reason was that his soul was very weak, and he didn't want to waste too much energy. In addition, the Huang family might send people over, so they had to finish digging as soon as possible and leave as soon as possible. After an hour of digging, the upper part was almost cleared out. Luli had obtained tens of thousands of crystals. He could tell with psychic power that there were tens of thousands more, but they were in a deep place. After giving it some thought, he flew up into the air. First, he slapped out a huge palm to flatten the nearby mountain range. Then, he condensed a huge claw that was over 100 zhang in length and pulled out the soil and rocks below layer by layer. After hundreds of times, a huge pit had appeared. It was more than 100,000 feet deep and tens of thousands of feet in diameter. Most of the crystals were dug out by Luli. But it was a pity that at least half of the crystals in there were shattered because of the force of grabbing was too strong. Whoosh whoosh, from the distance came 3 noises. The 3 patriarchs of the Huang family were here. They checked with psychic power and saw the situation in the Winter Sun Valley. They trembled and almost fell from the sky. They saw many broken pieces of crystals in the mud and stones and the bodies of the 2 patriarchs who were guarding here. The 3 of them trembled with anger. The death of the 2 patriarchs was not a big deal. How could so many precious crystals be destroyed? There were only a few places of crystals like this at the entire godly Windland. The reason why the Huang family wasn't in a hurry to mine was that the crystals were fragile and they didn't want to damage the mineral roots here. As long as the mineral roots were not damaged, they could continue to produce crystals. Not only had Luli destroyed more than half of the crystals, but he had also destroyed the mineral root. How could the three patriarchs stay calm? The three patriarchs' eyes reddened. They dashed toward Lu Li in a frenzy. The three of them regretted not stopping Lu Li before. Buzzing, Lu Li could not afford to be careless when facing three warriors at the middle stage of the fourth tribulation. He let out the daughter of Saint King at once. He ordered Blood Fairy to kill all three of them if they insisted on fighting to the death. After so many years, Lu Li had hardened his heart. As long as they were enemies, there was nothing to be said. It was either you or me. If you didn't kill others, others would kill you. The daughter of Saint King did not have a strong energy, but she was fast. She reached the three patriarchs in an instant. Her eyes were devoid of human emotions and her beautiful face left a deep impression on the three patriarchs. Whoosh! The Holy Emperor's daughter stretched out a small hand and swatted an elder's head. That patriarch was not a good-for-nothing. He took out a pagoda and smashed it toward the daughter of Saint King. Bang! When the Heavenly Emperor's daughter slapped the pagoda was sent flying. The daughter of Saint King sped up all of a sudden. Her beautiful hand landed on the patriarch's head. At the same time, the other two patriarchs struck at the daughter of Saint King's shoulder and back respectively. However, the daughter of Saint King's body was strong. Not only was she unharmed, but her dress was not torn either. The patterns on her dress were glistening. Clearly, it was a piece of valuable treasure. Bang! The head of the elder who was hit exploded and he died instantly. The remaining two elders looked at each other, their eyes filled with fear. They did not use their strongest moves, but they were strong nonetheless. Yet, they could not inflict any harm on the daughter of Saint King. On the other hand, the daughter of Saint King had killed one of their own. Run! The two patriarchs were not stubborn. Without any hesitation, they ran to the left and the right. Blood Fairy did not go after them. Lu Li had said that if the two were not fighting to the death, then there was no need to kill them. When the two were gone, Lu Li released some more claws to collect some crystals. He asked Blood Fairy to collect the interspatial rings of the 3/4 tribulation warriors he killed. Let's go. He hopped onto Master of Phantom's shoulder, put away the daughter of Saint King, and flew away in a blur. Half a day after Lu Li left, over a dozen battleships came. Not only were there tens of thousands of warriors on board, but there were also dozens of 4th Tribulation warriors. How dare you! Chapter 2408. The Huang family was quite powerful at the southern part of the Moonview territory. The Huang family was the second most powerful family at the southern part of the Moonview territory. A young lady of the Huang family was married to the Hall Master of Warfare of the Niu family. The Huang family and the Niu family had always been close. All the families at the Moonview territory respected the Huang family. Under the order of the Huang family patriarch, everyone in the Huang family took actions. They sent messages to all the families at the southern part of the Moonview territory. Almost all the families at the southern part of the Moonview territory were on the move, searching for a white-haired young man riding a beast. Previously, the Huang family only sent out some scouts which could track down Lu Li easily. But this time, tens of thousands of scouts and warriors of other families were sent out to search for him. After 3 days of searching, there was no trace of Lu Li. Lu Li suddenly disappeared. A living person with a very powerful giant beast suddenly disappeared. This made people feel very strange. Huang Tao, the family patriarch of the Huang family, was even more furious. The previous deaths were just for show. Now that the news was out, the reputation of the Huang family would be affected. If they could not kill Lu Li, then they would be humiliated. Lu Li did not hide. He had used the shape-shifting mask. After he killed the Huang family warriors, he knew that the matter would be blown up. The Huang family would send out many powerful warriors to hunt him down. The daughter of a Saint King was powerful, but Lu Li was not confident that he could fight against a big family. After flying for 6 hours, his soul recovered a bit. He used the shape-shifting mask, put on an armor, dyed his hair and entered a city. Every time he teleported, he would change his look. The shape-shifting mask was very useful. He could change his appearance with a thought. The crippled Zen master said that warriors below the Emperor realm could not see through his disguise. Luli was relieved. After teleporting for more than a dozen times, he found a tavern to rest. There were many scouts in the city, and many people tried to check on him. But nobody could tell who he really was. The mask even affected his abilities. When others tried to check on him, they could tell that he was powerful, but they could not tell that he was at the peak of the second tribulation. When Luli took the form of an old man, others would feel that he was old and feeble. The city Luli was in was a small one with few powerful warriors. Luli would be able to sense if any super-powerful warriors were teleported over. He was staying in a tavern next to the teleportation formation. Scouts came and went in batches. Luli had been living leisurely for 10 days. His soul was almost recovered, but the Huang family hadn't found him yet. The Huang clan's patriarch, Huang Tao, had a fiery temper recently. He had mobilized almost everyone in the clan, but they still couldn't find him. What else could they do? Could it be that he would capture all the people he saw who were similar? At that time, the entire domain would be in chaos, and the Nyo family would definitely not agree to it. I can only invite others. After Huang Tao gathered all the elders and had a discussion, they decided to spend a sky-high price to invite the people of a super race. The people of that race were recognized as the best in tracking in the Divine Wind continent. The spirit-chasing race. This was an ancient race. Although they were slightly weaker than the 10 great god races, their tracking techniques were very famous in ancient times. However, there weren't many members of this ancient race left, and they almost didn't come out into the world anymore. Only a few of them worked for the superclans. It just so happened that a patriarch of the Huang family knew someone from the spirit-chasing race. If the price was high enough, the patriarch could be invited. After some discussion, the Huang family members and the patriarchs decided to offer 100 billion divine stones to hire this person. The reason for the high price was the crystals in the Winter Sun Valley. The crystals Luli dug out alone were worth 200 billion divine stones. As long as Luli was found, the 100 billion divine stones would be well spent. Now that things had come to this, they could not let it end anticlimactic. Huang Tao sent more people to search for Luli. At the same time, he asked the patriarch to bring the tens of billions of divine stones to hire the powerful warrior of the spirit-chasing race. 2 days later, the patriarch sent back good news. The powerful warrior of the spirit-chasing race had agreed and was teleporting over. The Huang family was cheered up. They hadn't found Luli for more than 10 days, but they believed that as long as the spirit-chasing race could find some clues, they could track Luli down. 1 day later, the warrior of the spirit-chasing race came. He didn't come to the Huang family. Instead, he went to the wild to look for Luli. Luli had taken actions in several places, including the Ghost Master and the daughter of the Saint King. He could always leave some clues. The warrior of the spirit-chasing race could track Luli down as long as he could find some clues. People from the spirit-chasing race looked no different from humans. The only difference was that they were shorter and looked inconspicuous. First, he went to the Lunar Lake and then to the Winter Sun Valley. In the end, he followed the route Luli took and went to the small city. He has teleported away. 3 patriarchs of the Huang family followed the warrior of the spirit-chasing race. The warrior pointed to the teleportation formation and said, "It will be more difficult to track him down after he teleported away. I think he has a piece of treasure." After he went into the city, his chi and energy became weak. I think he must have used a piece of treasure to hide it. The warrior of the spirit-chasing race said after some thoughts, "I have accepted 30 billion divine stones from you. I can only try my best, but I cannot guarantee that I will find him. If I cannot find him, I will not refund the 30 billion. If I do, you will pay me the remaining 70 billion. If you agree to this, I will go on." The three patriarchs looked at each other. Eventually, two of them turned to Huang Yanfeng, the patriarch of the Hall of Warfare of the Huang family. The latter thought about it and said, "Shadow, I agree to your terms. Please try your best to help us. The Huang family will be grateful." "Sure." Shadow of the spirit chasing race nodded and led the three into the teleportation formation. Miraculously, he teleported along the same route as Lu Li. After more than a dozen teleportations, Shadow turned to a tavern and said, "There is a strong qi and energy here. He might have stayed here for some time." Huang Yanfeng and the rest used their spiritual wills to scan through the people inside. Everyone in the city was alarmed. The city master had flown over to greet them. "There is no need to check." Shadow shook his head and said, "His qi and energy have lingered for a day. He left a day ago." "A day?" The three of them were cheered up. A day was not a long time. Teleportation could not take them too far. What was more, Lu Li could not teleport continuously. Otherwise, he would be targeted by scouts. Therefore, he couldn't have gone far. "Go after him." Huang Yanfeng waved his hand and Shadow led the way into the teleportation formation. Huang Yanfeng asked the city master to send a message back to the family and ask them to send more powerful warriors to follow them. In this way, nothing could go wrong. They didn't stop chasing. After teleporting for 2 days, Shadow suddenly pointed to a tavern and said, "In that tavern, in the third castle, he is out." Shadow pointed to a tavern and shouted. As soon as he finished his words, an old man broke out from the castle and flew out. The old man seemed to be very old and his eyes were filled with coldness. It was Lu Li in disguise. He didn't look at the three patriarchs, but at Shadow. He had a feeling that Shadow could lock on to his qi and energy. If this man didn't die, it would be hard for him to get rid of the Huang family. Kill. Chapter 2409. It was not easy to kill a warrior in the presence of 1 at the latter stage of the fourth tribulation and 2 at the middle stage of the fourth tribulation. If Lu Li was not careful, he might be killed by the warrior at the latter stage. Fortunately, he had simulated many battles during this period of time, so he already had a plan in mind. He had rushed out at the first moment because he had long since deduced the result. The reason he took the initiative to rush out was to catch the Huang family off guard. If it was someone else, they would have run away immediately, but he did the exact opposite. This naturally caused the Huang family to be surprised. He was fast. In an instant, he had reached the three patriarchs. They took out their relic weapons and treasures, ready to attack Lu Li. Lu Li didn't target Shadow. He didn't even look at Shadow. Instead, he stared at the warrior at the latter stage of the fourth tribulation. He released many worms of the void toward the three patriarchs. Worms of the void were useless against warriors at the middle stage and the latter stage of the fourth tribulation. Lu Li used them only to scare them. At the same time, he let out Phantom King and Ghost Shadow as well. Phantom King and Ghost Shadow both targeted Huang Yanfeng at the latter stage of the fourth tribulation. At the same time, Lu Li took out the relic metal and poured in divine energy. Horrifying energy spread out. He took out the relic metal and flew toward Huang Yanfeng. Lu Li's ferocious attacks made Huang Yanfeng worried. The two patriarchs that ran away said that there was a woman with Lu Li who was horrifying. She could kill their patriarch in one move. That woman didn't show up and Lu Li had the holy weapon fragment. Huang Yanfeng was hesitating. He was afraid that Lu Li would be the main attacker and distract him so that the woman could sneak up on him and kill him. Huang Yanfeng didn't dare to attack out of fear of the daughter of Saint King. He had to stay on guard and defend himself. Lu Li's separation bead glowed. The daughter of Saint King came out and dashed toward Huang Yanfeng. Just as I thought. Huang Yanfeng was alarmed to see the daughter of Saint King's emotionless eyes. Without any hesitation, he stepped back. The other two patriarchs didn't have so many concerns. Lu Li's target was Huang Yanfeng. They came at Lu Li from the left and right. Their weapons hit Lu Li at the same time. The Holy Emperor's daughter's body flashed. She did not attack Huang Yanfeng, nor did she attack the two elders. Instead, she attacked Chasing Shadow. Shadow Chaser was stunned. He never thought that Lu Li's target would be him. However, his reaction was very fast. His body turned into a shadow and rushed down into the crowd. But just how fast was the Sacred Emperor's daughter? Her body flashed and she rushed down, a beautiful hand slapping Shadow Chaser's back. Boom! Zhui Ying's body was smashed into the ground, and his body was smashed into pieces. Zhui Ying's strength was only at the early stages of the fourth tribulation. His defense wasn't strong, so he was easily smashed to death. Bang bang! Two warriors at the middle stage of the fourth tribulation landed on Lu Li. Lu Li had used the dragon manipulation skill. His physical strength was strong. The two warriors didn't use any particularly powerful moves. Therefore, when their attacks landed on Lu Li, his armor cracked and his body was injured, but his bones remained intact. His physical body was strong. Ha! Lu Li took back the relic iron and smashed it at a warrior at the middle stage of the fourth tribulation realm. Sensing the might of the relic iron, that warrior stepped back at once. Huang Yanfeng flew over, but Lu Li did not dare to continue the fight. He put away Master of Apparition's apparition. The worms of the void didn't care. Lu Li said to Blood Fairy, "Stall them for me for a moment." Whoosh! Blood Fairy dashed toward Huang Yanfeng. Huang Yanfeng came out at the same time. This time, he didn't step back. Zhui Ying was killed. If he could not stop Lu Li this time, it would be difficult to track him down in the future because Lu Li's cloaking ability was strong. Huang Yanfeng took out a King Kong pestle and smashed at the Sacred Emperor's daughter. The latter reached out a hand and gently slapped at the King Kong pestle. Space trembled. A horrifying shockwave spread out. Many houses collapsed and many warriors were smashed away. Huang Yanfeng felt a surge of strength. He lost his grip on the King Kong pestle and was smashed away. The Sacred Emperor's daughter took 3 steps back and then continued to fly toward him. A patriarch next to him hacked at the Sacred Emperor's daughter with his saber. The latter turned around and slapped at him. The man's saber was smashed away and he was smashed away. If it were not for the fact that Huang Yanfeng came, this man would have been killed by the Sacred Emperor's daughter. Bang bang bang, the Sacred Emperor's daughter dashed around in midair. She was fighting against 3 warriors of the fourth tribulation alone, but she was not weaker than them. The dress she was wearing was a powerful piece of artifact. It was not damaged even after so many attacks. Not even Huang Yanfeng's attacks could damage it. What was more, her physical body was strong. Every time, she could catch relic weapons and treasures with her bare hands. Of course, the 3 patriarchs did not use their strongest moves, especially group attacks. Otherwise, this city would have been destroyed. This was a mid-sized city, and there were many of their families' people there. Buzzing, Lu Li drew a formation in the void. A small golden door appeared. He shouted, "Blood Fairy, let's go!" Whoosh! After the Sacred Emperor's daughter forced Huang Yanfeng back, she dashed over and was taken into the separation bead by Lu Li. Lu Li dashed into the small golden door and vanished. Huang Yanfeng and the 2 patriarchs were taken aback. What was this skill? It did not look like he was opening a spatial gate. How could it be opened so easily? Chase? The 3 of them did not dare to go into the small door. What if it was a trap set by Lu Li? It might be easy to go in but difficult to come out. While the 3 of them were still in a daze, the small golden door disappeared. Only then did Huang Yanfeng come to his senses. He swung his giant hand and released a giant palm seal towards the small golden door. Unfortunately, it was too late. The golden door was about to disappear. His slap did make the door collapse, but it did not affect Lu Li's ability to fly in the void. Space trembled and ripples spread out, but Lu Li was not shaken out. Soon, the space calmed down. Lu Li was nowhere to be seen. Boom! Huang Yanfeng angrily slapped the ground with her palm. The white jade plaza above the plaza shattered into pieces, and a huge deep pit appeared. They had finally found Lu Li, but he had run away. More importantly, Shadow Chaser was killed. Shadow Chaser was not only from the Soul Chaser race, but he was also serving a superfamily. Now that Shadow Chaser was dead, Huang Yanfeng had to think about how to answer to the family. If he could not answer well, the superfamily might punish him. Not even the Huang family could bear the consequences. Mobilize the army to search nearby, Huang Yanfeng ordered. He did not believe that Lu Li had opened a spatial gate. He believed that Lu Li had just teleported to a nearby area. Let's go. Chapter 24:10. Huang Yanfeng searched an area with a radius of 3 million miles with a group of warriors but found no trace of Lu Li. Tens of thousands of warriors found nothing either. Huang Yanfeng gave up. He knew that they could not find Lu Li on their own. They had to either hire more soul chasers or figure out another way. There were few soul chasers. Apart from those who lived in seclusion, most of the soul chasers worked for big families. The one they hired was from a superfamily. When Huang Yanfeng sent the news back, Huang Tao was troubled. But what could he do? Someone in that superfamily knew that they had hired soul chasers. Huang Tao had no other choice but to go to that superfamily in person to apologize. He opened a space gate and found a patriarch of that family to apologize in person. After Huang Tao apologized, that patriarch was reasonable. He said that he would let Huang Tao send some gifts to the soul chasers and they would let it go. After all, Shadow Chaser was hired by the Huang family. If he died, it would be his own fault. Huang Tao was relieved. He thanked the patriarch profusely and was about to leave. Just as he was about to teleport away, that patriarch sent someone to call him back. What is it? Patriarch Shan? Huang family patriarch came back with confusion. Patriarch Shan was confused as well. He said, Huang Tao, someone up there wants to see you. Up there? Huang Tao, family patriarch of the Huang family, frowned. Is it your family patriarch? Patriarch Shan shook his head. He pointed up and said, the one at the top. What? Huang Tao trembled. He knew very well what the Shan family represented. This Shan family was originally not particularly strong, but they were able to dominate this area because their family was a branch of another superfamily. At the godly Windland, the word Shan represented some kind of power. There was an emperor named Shan. When Patriarch Shan said the one at the top, the implication was clear. It was the most powerful warrior of the Shan family. That emperor wanted to see Huang Tao. The emperor wanted to see him. Huang Tao was so nervous that he was trembling. He took a deep breath and asked, Patriarch Shan, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Patriarch Shan shook his head and said, let's go. I will open a space gate and take you there. You cannot avoid good or bad. And Huang Tao nodded. Elder Dan asked someone to open the domain gate. The two of them entered the domain gate and teleported to a huge mountain range. The mountain range was shrouded in clouds and mist, and on the mountain peaks, palaces were faintly discernible. It was like a paradise. At the foot of the mountain, an elder at the peak of the fourth tribulation had been waiting for a long time. He glanced at Huang Tao and said, You know the etiquette, right? Understood, understood. Many of them were so powerful that Huang Tao's heart trembled. There were dozens of such powerful warriors in the hall, and they were only some of the Shan family's powerful warriors. Huang Tao finally witnessed the power of a great emperor's family. Huang Tao. When most of them were here, Shan Hu looked at Huang Tao and said, "Tell me everything about that man. Don't leave anything out." Phoenix Queen had not been involved in the family's affairs in recent years. She rarely gave orders. For the Shan family, Phoenix Queen's orders were like an immortal's decree. They wouldn't hesitate even if they were asked to attack another great emperor's clan, let alone capture a single person. Huang Tao told her the situation at once, including where Lu Li came from, the conflict between Lu Li and Huang Feng, the soul chasers, and how they were killed. When Huang Tao finished, the family patriarch of the Shan family nodded and said, "Shan Hu, you are in charge of this. You can mobilize the family's resources and powerful warriors. You must find this man within a month. Remember, family patriarch said to keep him alive. Don't kill him." Shan Hu nodded and left with Huang Tao. In a moment, many orders were passed down. Many powerful warriors and countless scouts were sent out. In half a day, a piece of news spread across the central region of the Windland. Phoenix Queen had given the order to capture a man. That man was wanted by the Huang family. The Shan family said that whoever could capture this man would be rewarded handsomely. The entire central region of the Windland was stirred. Many families swarmed over, not for the reward from the Shan family, but because this man was wanted by Phoenix Queen. If they could capture this man, they would be connected to the Wind Empress. For their families, this man was a super amulet. Chapter 24:11 Phoenix Queen. In a small city, Lu Li's expressions changed when he heard the discussion in the city. He had only offended the Huang family. Why was the Phoenix Empress suddenly dragged into this? He listened carefully and used psychic power to check. Many people in the city were talking about this. There were 2 emperors at the central region and Phoenix Queen was one of them. It was hard not to notice Phoenix Queen's order. After a while, Lu Li became even more confused. Phoenix Queen's order came out of the blue. She gave the order without any warning. Many people in the city were confused as to why Phoenix Queen would give the order to capture Lu Li. They felt Lu Li and Phoenix Queen were completely unrelated. How could an insignificant warrior be related to Phoenix Queen? Has Phoenix Queen sensed that I am at the godly Windland? An idea came to Lu Li's mind. His heart was weighed down. The entire central region of the godly Windland was tracking him. He could be discovered at any time, and then countless powerful warriors would come after him. The daughter of a saint king might be able to fight against warriors at the peak of the 4th tribulation, but not the 5th, not to mention the 6th. Phoenix Queen's family must have more than 1 or 2 lords of the 6th tribulation. That was a family of emperors. Fighting against a family of emperors? Lu Li felt an invisible pressure pressing down on him, making him feel like he was suffocating. Before he came from the chilly winterland, he had been prepared that Phoenix Queen might come after him. Little did he know that as soon as he arrived, Phoenix Queen knew and sent someone to hunt him down. He had thought the shape-shifting mask was invincible. Little did he know that there was a special race here that could track him. Lu Li thought quickly, thinking about how to escape. As for fighting against Phoenix Queen's family, he was not that crazy or stupid. If there was a soul chaser, then there must be another one. Therefore, using the shape-shifting mask to take the teleportation formation would be a dead end. He would have a better chance of survival in the wild. The other way was to fly in the void. He could fly in the void continuously. In this way, it would be harder for enemies to track him down. The fact that Lu Li flew across the void proved that he could cross more than one region at a time. He had left the Moonview region and was now at the nearby Longhui region. Flying through the void was much faster than teleporting. It was also faster than riding the Godspeed boat. However, there was a weakness to flying through the void, and that was that a small golden door would appear every time. If there was someone there, their whereabouts would be immediately exposed. Let's sneak into the wilderness first. Luli thought about it and decided to go to the wild first. He wanted to see if that strange spirit chaser could really find him. If that was the case, he could only forcefully fly through the void to escape. After returning to his room, he changed his appearance and quickly left the city. He entered a huge mountain and set up a one-way teleportation array. He also set up some simple inhibition formations nearby. The inhibition formations were not harmful, but Luli could sense them once they were touched. He had set up many of these small restrictions, but almost all of them did not have any divine pattern fluctuations and were unremarkable. Then, Luli took the teleportation formation and left. He did not teleport far, only tens of thousands of miles away. He was still in the mountains. Luli began to set up more small inhibition formations and a one-way teleportation formation. Then, he was teleported away. The process repeated. Luli set up inhibition formations and teleported away at the same time. He set up 5 such places before he stopped in the depth of a mountain. This time, he did not leave, nor did he set up inhibition formations himself. He asked Blood Fairy to do it. Blood Fairy spent a day setting up a few powerful divine glyphs. One was a killing formation, one was an illusion formation, and one was a maze formation. Luli did not expect to kill his enemies with these divine patterns. They were just to buy him time to use his skill. Even if his enemies were nearby, it would take time for them to crack the formation. In the time for one breath, Luli could fly away. Cultivate. Luli cultivated here. He took out the body refinement pellets and consumed them quickly. He would not waste a single second. The more he could improve, the more likely he would be to survive. 2 days. Luli opened his eyes all of a sudden. The first inhibition formation he set up was touched, and it was touched several times. It meant that many people had gone there. They did not pay attention to the inhibition formations and touched them at will. Luli continued to cultivate. In the time for one incense stick to burn, he opened his eyes again. The second restriction that he had set up was touched by someone. It was clear that the enemy had tracked him to the second location that he had set up. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the inhibition formation at the third place was touched. Luli put on a bitter face. He did not need to verify the location. His enemies had good tracking skills that could track him down easily. Since they could track him down, Luli had no other way out except for one: to fly away in the void. In this way, it would be much more difficult for his enemies to track him down. Bang! Another inhibition formation was touched. It took less and less time. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli drew a formation in the void. Without any hesitation, Luli drew a formation in the void. A small golden door appeared. He snuck in and vanished on the spot. Hundreds of thousands of miles away from Luli, a team of powerful warriors was running. In front of them were 2 short men from the Soul Chasers. As Luli flew away, the 2 Soul Chasers stopped at the same time. They twitched their noses and looked at each other. One of them reported to the warriors behind him, "Lords, that man just left. He must have used some kind of powerful skill. I can't sense his presence within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles." Powerful skill? Dan Hu frowned. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go and have a look." They rushed over and arrived at the place where Luli had just left. Dan Hu could solve the illusions and mazes easily. Yes. One of the Soul Chasers nodded and said, "He was here just now and he stayed here for a day or 2. He must be the one who set up the places we checked. He could sense the low-level patterns we touched, so he left in advance." "I can't sense him within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles?" Dan Hu asked with doubt. The 2 Soul Chasers nodded. Dan Hu's wrinkled face trembled. Looking at the other patriarch of the Shan family, he said, "Brother 3, That bastard was at the Moonview region. How did he come here? Now, he has disappeared to hundreds of millions of miles away. There was a fluctuation in space just now. Don't you find this skill familiar? Yes, it is like the skill that the King of Thousand Transformations is famous for, the void traversal. The other elder nodded. He added, "This man can change his appearance at will. Can he have learned the skills of the King of Thousand Transformations? If he really can fly across the void, then we will be in big trouble. Let's go back and have someone cast a wide net." Dan Hu waved his hand and said, "At the very least, he does not know how to change his breath of life. The soul chasers can still locate him. Therefore, we still have a good chance to find him. As long as we have a chance, he will not get away." Chapter 24:12. Dan Hu began to cast his net. At one order, at least tens of millions of warriors were mobilized. The entire central region of the godly Windland was looking for Luli. Dan Hu asked people to pay attention to see if anyone would open a golden door in midair. As these orders were passed down, someone really did find a small golden door in the nearby domain. They also saw a person coming out from the small door. Then, he opened another small golden door and disappeared in it. He really is flying in the void. After Dan Hu received the news, he confirmed that it was void crossing. This divine skill was very famous in the past. It was an ancient divine skill. Only one person had used it before, and that was the crippled Zen master. However, he had used the alias King of Thousand Transformations. The Lord of Changes was once famous. In the Silver Flame Sea, he killed more than half of a superfamily. His name was known throughout the third heaven. Once, an emperor went after him in person, but he managed to escape. It was a testament to the power of this skill. Dan Hu was not in a hurry when he was sure that it was flying in the void. There was no point in rushing. The chances of catching up with Luli would be slim if they went after him blindly. Rather than running after Luli with his men, they might as well wait for him. Dan Hu gathered more than 100 warriors of the Fourth Tribulation realm and divided them into 5 groups. They went to the area where Luli appeared and waited for him. Luli was not strong. As far as Dan Hu and the others were concerned, they only needed one chance to take him down. The 5 teams spread out. A large number of scouts went to nearby areas and spread out a huge net. Emperor's family was powerful. They could mobilize too many warriors and resources. Soon, Luli was discovered again. He was flying in the void toward the north. Every time he flew in the void, he could cross more than one area and it would take him about 4 hours. It was an incredible speed. Dan Hu had just finished his plan when he realized that Luli had fled to the nearby areas. Dan Hu had to send people to the areas at the north to block Luli's way. If they took teleportation formations to block Luli's way, they would not be able to catch up. Emperor's family was rich. They opened spatial gates directly. They weren't just opening one. They were opening hundreds of them, teleporting tens of thousands of people. Every time they opened the teleportation gate, it would cost them a lot of precious crystals. Opening the teleportation gate for tens of thousands of people would cost at least tens of billions of godstones. Scouts were everywhere. Therefore, every time Luli opened a space portal, he would be spotted. His whereabouts were under the control of the Shan family. However, after 6 or 7 times, Luli suddenly changed directions, which frustrated Dan Hu. Luli turned to the west and flew across the void. Even though the Shan clan was rich and overbearing, they couldn't bear to continuously mobilize so many people to open the teleportation gate. Luli flew across the void for another 6 or 7 times before he stopped. He put on the shape-shifting mask and flew on the Godspeed boat. He guessed that the spirit chasers could not easily lock onto his position from such a distance, so they could only follow his scent all the way here. The Godspeed boat was so fast How could the spirit-chasing race catch up? Luli swaggered on the god speedboat. Even though there were scouts along the way looking for him, the god speedboat was too fast. Not many people were qualified to have such a treasure. The scouts thought Luli was from a super family, so they didn't dare to follow him. Luli swaggered on for more than 10 days and crossed 2 regions without any mishap. Dan, who didn't find anything during that time. He thought Luli was hiding, so he mobilized an army to search in the 2 regions. Luli swaggered on the godly speedboat. After another 5 days, Dan, who sent some warriors of the Soul Chasers over. They realized that Luli was no longer in the 2 areas. Therefore, they hurriedly sent someone to the west. After gathering all the information, Dan, who suspected that Luli had boarded the god speedboat. He sent a message to the scouts ahead to track the god speedboat. As soon as the order was given, Luli felt something was wrong. Previously, there had been scouts who had scouted the god speedboat, but they had all been in awe. This time, however, the scouts who had scouted the boat had doubtful gazes, and some of them had even tried to follow the boat for a distance. I can't go on. Luli put away the god speedboat decisively. He opened the space portal and flew to the north. This time, he flew for another 7 or 8 times in a row. Dan, who was hopping mad that Luli's whereabouts had been discovered. They had spent a lot of effort, but none of their powerful warriors had seen Luli. They didn't even have a chance to capture him. Pass down my order. Tell the scouts and families in the north to stall him at all costs the moment they discover him flying through the void. Dan, who gave his order. The scouts and warriors of the families at the north obeyed his orders strictly. This time, Luli happened to be in the vicinity of a middle-sized city. Charge! Warriors in the city sensed it. Thousands of them flew up and dashed toward Luli. There were some warriors of the 4th tribulation in this medium-sized city, but the most powerful one was only at the middle stage. The family that controlled the city happened to be affiliated to the Dan family. Naturally, they would try their best to keep Luli here. This was a great contribution. There were several average warriors of the 4th tribulation and thousands of warriors. Luli didn't even let out the daughter of Saint King. He only used the dragon-absorbing skill and the Phantom King. The man and the Phantom King dashed forward like 2 tigers. Boom! Luli punched a warrior at the initial stage of the 4th tribulation. That warrior was smashed away and smashed into the city wall, leaving a big hole. Woo! The Phantom King dashed into the crowd and chose to attack the most powerful warrior at the middle stage of the 4th tribulation. The Phantom King was not afraid of being hurt. It took the attack and attacked desperately. Boom, 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 there came some muffled sounds. In the time for a dozen breaths, several warriors of the 4th tribulation were either wounded or dead. The average warriors suffered even greater casualties. The Phantom King was wounded, but it was not a problem for him to deal with the average warriors. He could kill one at a time. He dashed into the crowd and tore apart the warriors one by one. Blood mist was everywhere. Pieces of flesh and broken limbs were flying around. Soon, the ground was tainted red. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Teams of warriors and warriors flew out. Even though the outside of the city was tainted with blood, the warriors in the city were not afraid of death. They kept coming. Tens of thousands of warriors flew out. Since you are not afraid of death, then I will grant you your wish. Luli was enraged. He didn't care if this family was related to the Dan family or not. At the very least, they were attacking him. Luli didn't need to show them mercy. Buzzing, Luli released Worms of the Void. Worms of the Void were the most effective against a large army. There were tens of billions of Worms of the Void. They could cover the sky and cover the earth. It was fast for them to wipe out the average warriors. Bang, bang, bang! Soon, warriors fell down one by one. Their heads were bitten off. They died in a miserable way. Chapter 24:13. Those who dared to help Phoenix Queen will be killed without mercy. Luli. Luli left some words behind. Because the words were deep and the blood had seeped into them, when seen from the sky, the words looked like they were dripping with blood. As the words spread out, the entire middle road of the godly wind was in an uproar. Usually, no one dared to mention Phoenix Queen in public. After all, she was the emperor. If someone heard it and thought they were speaking ill of Phoenix Queen, they would be killed by the Shan family. Luli had the courage to write these bloody words after he killed people. This was a declaration of war against Phoenix Queen. How dare he leave his name? This man was insufferably arrogant. Shan who was hopping mad. The Shan family patriarch even sent a message to express his dissatisfaction. If the Phoenix Empress were to find out about this, she would probably fly into a thunderous rage. When Shan who was about to mobilize more powerful warriors to hunt down Luli, another piece of news came out. Luli flew across the void twice and appeared next to a big city. In this city, there was a warrior at the later stage of the Fourth Tribulation, more than a dozen Fourth Tribulation warriors, more than 100,000 warriors and hundreds of thousands of warriors. Now all of them were dead. The mountain to the north of the city was covered with corpses. At the foot of the mountain, there were more than a dozen words. Those who dared to help Phoenix Queen will be killed without mercy. Luli. This incident caused an even greater sensation. More than 500,000 warriors and warriors at the later stage of the Fourth Tribulation died in the time for a few incense sticks to burn. Luli had gone on a killing spree, announcing to the entire godly wind that he had declared war against Phoenix Queen. If Phoenix Queen and the Shan family could not kill Luli, then they would be humiliated. Almost a month had passed. As a matter of fact, the Shan family had been humiliated. But there was nothing they could do. Luli could fly across the void continuously. Every time he did so, he could cross more than one area. No matter how many powerful warriors the Shan family had, they would have to open a space portal to hunt him down. Luli's location could change at any time. Unless the powerful warriors of the Shan family were extremely lucky, they would not be able to find Luli. The Soul Chasers were strong and they could track down Luli easily. However, they could not catch up with Luli. This was also the reason why the crippled Zen Elder was able to dominate the Silver Flame Sea region back then. This divine skill was too abnormal. It would be fine if he could only release it once or twice, but as long as his soul was strong enough, he could release it continuously. Luli had traveled across the void many times. Now, he had arrived at the central north. If they continued to head north, they would enter the northern part of the Divine Wind continent. It would no longer be the Shan clan's territory, but the territory of another great emperor. Of course, the Shan clan's experts could still pursue and kill them, but the other clans wouldn't give them face. It wouldn't be like this side, where almost all the clans would come forward to help. Dan, who had no other choice. He could only open a space gate and return to back Phoenix Mountain. He went to Phoenix Palace and knelt down, shouting, "Patriarch, this subordinate is incompetent." A moment later, a figure appeared. The Phoenix Empress looked at Dan Hu indifferently and asked, "You can't catch him?" "Yes." Shan Hu forced a smile. He bowed again and said, "That punk called Luli has learned the skills of the Lord of Thousand Transformations. He knows how to fly in the void. He can travel through the void continuously. Our people can't catch up." Fly in the void? The Phoenix Empress was getting colder. She waved her hand and said, "Okay, I understand. Call everyone back. I will send someone to deal with this." Yes. Dan Hu accepted the order. But he was confused. Phoenix Empress was going to send someone? Who was she going to send? He pondered as he walked. After a while, his heart suddenly stirred. He thought of someone. The Shan family had a progenitor warrior with amazing tracking skills. His speed was famous across the Divine Wind continent. This progenitor warrior was a warrior of the Fifth Tribulation. If this progenitor warrior were to take action, it wouldn't be difficult to hunt down Luli. This old man's speed was faster than teleportation. He might be as fast as Luli's flying. He had learned a very powerful fundamental principle of wind. Not even warriors of the sixth tribulation could be a match for him. Only those of the Great Emperor or the Great Emperor Quasi-Emperor could slow him down. Phoenix Empress going after Luli in person? That was not possible. The Phoenix Empress couldn't afford to do so. Great emperors had their dignity. They wouldn't go out in person for an insignificant warrior. They would be laughed at by the other emperors. Even the family patriarch of the Shan family didn't take action. How could a lord go after Luli? Luli was not worthy. He was right. As Dan Hu had expected, he soon received news that a progenitor warrior of the Shan family, Dan Jioding, came out from the back of the mountain and entered Phoenix Empress Palace. Truth be told, Dan Jioding was more senior than Phoenix Empress. That being said, Phoenix Empress had reached the Great Emperor realm. Naturally, she was supreme in the Shan family. Everyone had to follow her orders. After Dan Jioding came out from the Palace of Phoenix, he opened a space portal and left. Dan Hu was relieved. He sent a message to all the warriors of the Shan family to come back. Of course, he didn't send a message to the families that were helping the Shan family to hunt down Luli. He would let them continue to hunt Luli, which would make it easier for Dan Jioding. Luli didn't know that the Shan family had sent out a powerful warrior. He was still flying toward the north. He planned to leave the Wind Continent and enter the Silver Flames Sea. He believed that as long as he could enter the Silver Flames Sea, not even Phoenix Empress could hunt him down. That being said, the Wind Continent was a vast place. It would take him at least 2 or 3 months to get there. Only God could tell if something would go wrong along the way. After flying for more than 10 days, Luli felt he could not stand it anymore. His soul was stronger than before, but he couldn't stand it any longer. He entered a mountain and built some one-way teleportation formations like before. He also built many inhibition formations in 7 or 8 places. Then, he asked Blood Fairy to do some runes and to keep an eye out for him. When the runes were done, Luli consumed some herbs and went to sleep in the separation bead. The best way to recover from mental exhaustion was to sleep. No amount of herbs could cure a deep sleep. He slept for 2 days. When he woke up, he felt refreshed. He didn't fly away in a hurry. Instead, he changed his appearance with the shape-shifting mask and went to a nearby city. He gathered some information in the city. He realized that the Shan family's tracking had weakened recently. No powerful warriors of the Shan family were teleported here. Luli enjoyed a good meal and bought a detailed map of the Wind Continent. He also inquired about the Wind Continent. Let's go. He stayed in the city for half a day. Luli left the city. He checked the map and then flew away. Even though the powerful warriors of the Shan family had stopped their pursuit, Luli believed that the Shan family would not let it go so easily. Families like this cared about their reputation the most. They would not let it go so easily. Since no one seemed to be after him, then someone must be on the move. It was possible that some super powerful warriors were involved. The Shan family had more than one lord. Keep going. I will try to reach the north of the Wind Continent in 5 days. Luli nodded after taking a look at the map. When he reached the north of the Wind Continent, it would be much more difficult for the Shan family to hunt him down. P.S. I wrote 3 chapters and deleted 1. I am stuck. Chapter 24:14. Flying across the void, Luli arrived at the northern region of the godly wind land 5 days later. He was relieved. At least, most of the families here would not help Phoenix Queen to hunt him down. But he did not stop. He knew that there must be some pursuers behind him. They must be powerful warriors of the Shan family. They must be at least a 5th tribulation heaven immortal. A sixth tribulation heaven immortal would be killed as soon as he approached Luli. Luli flew for another 3 days. Finally, he stopped in a mountain. He was careful. He built 6 or 7 one-way teleportation formations and placed inhibition formations in each place. He asked Blood Fairy to lay down some runes for his resting place and asked her to protect him. He went to sleep in the heaven separation bead. Again, he slept for 2 days. His spirit was recovered. He was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he took out a map and studied it. Well, I should be at the nebula territory, right? Luli fixed his eyes on a red area nearby. On the map, there were more than a dozen red areas. They were all dangerous places of the Windland. Well, I must go to the west when I go back to the void. I cannot go north or I will end up in this dangerous place by mistake. Luli took a closer look at the red area. It was one of the most dangerous areas of the Windland, the Cursed Land. The Cursed Land used to be the base camp of a major sect. However, that sect was wiped out 200,000 years ago. Millions of disciples were killed. Before their master passed away, he used the blood of millions of disciples to release an evil skill that turned that area into the Cursed Land. Anyone that went in would be weakened and eventually turned into a skeleton. The Cursed Land. This place was famous not only at the Windland but also at the third heaven. Apart from emperors, not even lords dared to stay in the Cursed Land for long. I am lucky that I took a look at the map. Luli took a deep breath after he finished reading the introduction of the Cursed Land. If he were to fly in the void, he might end up in the Cursed Land. The Cursed Land was so large that it covered an area with a radius of hundreds of millions of miles. What? All of a sudden, Luli's soul trembled. He pulled a long face. Someone had touched the inhibition formation he built. Luli was taken aback. Without any hesitation, he drew a formation in the void and was about to fly. Whoosh! With a shrill noise, a huge black hand appeared above Luli's head. The black hand smashed down at Blood Fairy's runes with a horrifying force of destruction. Go! Luli put away Blood Fairy and dashed into the golden door. However, as soon as Luli stepped into the golden door, the shield burst open. The hand smashed down. Before Luli's golden door disappeared, it collapsed. Still, Luli flew away. A dark shadow dashed over and reached where Luli was in an instant. That was a very old man. He had gray hair, a hooked nose, and a cold gaze. One look was enough to tell that he was an ambitious and ruthless character. He also had a person with him. It was a very short old man who was obviously from the spirit-chasing race. The spirit-chasing race member's nose twitched slightly as he nodded and said, "That's right, it's him. Unfortunately, we're still too late. This time, I feel that he did not successfully fly through the void. He must have been forcefully shaken out. Lord Nine Lanterns, I can sense that he's currently in the west. He should be 50 million kilometers away." 50 million kilometers? The hook-nosed old man raised his eyebrows. Then, he dashed toward the west in a blur. He was so fast that he was as fast as the Godspeed boat. In the blink of an eye, he was tens of thousands of miles away. Poof, the spirit-chasing race member was right. Tens of thousands of miles away, Luli was shaken out. His armor was torn apart. He was covered in blood, and it was still gushing out from his mouth. Luli had experienced this once before. When he was flying through the void, he was shaken out. That time, he was seriously injured as well. This time, his physical body was stronger, but his injuries were equally serious. Many of his bones were shattered. His internal organs and soul were injured as well. Luli took some pellets at once. After a moment of thought, he let out the daughter of a holy king and asked her to take him away. The Godspeed boat was too big a target. He would be discovered soon. The daughter of a holy king was better off. At the very least, Blood Fairy would stay away when she sensed someone. That man was strong. Luli was still aghast at the thought of the huge palm. The owner of that hand was far away from Luli. Yet, he could release such a horrifying attack. It was not hard to imagine how strong this man was. There must be someone from the spirit-chasing race with him. Also, this man was fast. He had just touched the third inhibition formation, and he was already here. His speed was frightening. While Luli was tending to his wounds, he was deep in thoughts. Flying through the void was too dangerous for him. He could die in there. However, if he didn't, the man would catch up with him soon given how fast he was. Unless he used the Godspeed boat. But that would be a big target. He could be intercepted. It seems that I will die no matter where I go. Luli was troubled. He had been careless. He thought that since he was at the north of the godly wind, his enemies would not catch up so soon. His eyes flickered as he forced himself to calm down. Panicking would only lead to a faster death. Since he could not fly through the void, he had to accept the reality and try to find a way out. Many ideas flashed across Luli's mind, but he rejected them all. The warrior coming after him was at least a fifth tribulation warrior. The daughter of a holy king would not be able to stop him. The spirit-chasing race could track him down. He could not run away no matter what. Time. He needed time to recover. To recover, he would need at least 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days to hide in that place. If there was a family of a great emperor nearby, he could take the risk and hide there. But there was none. What was nearby? A place flashed across Luli's mind, but he rejected it soon. There was a cursed land nearby. But did he have the courage to go in? Let's go. Luli was surprised. Then he understood. Why didn't he dare to go in? He would only be weakened if he went in. But the powerful warriors coming after him would be weakened as well. The daughter of a holy king was a corpse. She wouldn't be weakened, would she? If worse came to worst, he had the Ghost King and the Ghost Worm in the void. Only when the enemy was weakened would he have the chance to take advantage. Let's go. Luli did not hesitate. He was so weak now. How weak could he be when he was in the cursed land? The cursed land was nearby. He wouldn't go into the deepest part. He should be able to survive for some time with his physical strength. Whoosh! Luli took out the godly boat and swaggered toward the north. His enemies could track him down no matter what. He wanted to see if the Dan family would have the courage to follow him into the cursed land. As soon as Luli turned to the north, the spirit-chasing race sensed him from thousands of miles away. The spirit-chasing race warrior said, "Lord Nine Lanterns, that man is flying toward the north. He is probably going to the cursed land." Cursed land? Dan Nine Lanterns turned around without any hesitation. He didn't believe that Luli had the courage to go to the cursed land. Chapter 24:15. The blasted land was not far away from Luli, only several billion miles away. Luli would have to fly for quite a while at his old speed. The godly boat was fast. In less than an hour, Luli had arrived. Looking at the misty land, Luli's heart skipped a beat. There was nothing in that land except for the purple haze. There were no flowers, no trees, no birds or insects. It was dead silent. Even if Luli did not know that this was the blasted land, he would not dare to go in rashly. This land gave off an ominous feeling. Just one step in and one's heart would palpitate. If it were not for the fact that he had no other choice, Luli would not go in. He stood outside the blasted land. He did not go in rashly. Instead, he let the Worm of the Void in first and then the Lord of Spectre. The latter walked in slowly. Luli used psychic power to check on the Worm of the Void and the Lord of Spectre. He noticed that as soon as the latter and the Worm of the Void came into contact with the purple haze, their breaths weakened. The Lord of Spectre let out muffled roars that became feeble. "Come back!" Luli told the Lord of Spectre to come back quickly. He noticed that the Lord of Spectre was weakening, but not significantly. The Lord of Spectre seemed to be in low spirits. It's okay, it's okay. Luli was relieved. He was afraid that he would be too weak to move as soon as he went in. Fortunately, the Lord of Spectre had only been in for a few breaths and was not weak. Buzzing, Luli let out the daughter of Holy King and let her in. At the same time, he talked to Blood Fairy. The Holy King's daughter stood there for a while, and then Blood Fairy said, "Master, this place is strange. The Holy King's daughter's power seems to be slowly fading away. If she stays here for too long, her combat ability will be greatly reduced." "Come out first," Luli said. The daughter of Holy King rushed out. Luli asked, "Is she recovering?" If the power of the daughter of Holy King could not be restored, Luli would not let her stay in there. She was one of Luli's trump cards. "Yes, she is recovering," Blood Fairy said after a while. "There are patterns in her body that can help her recover her strength. She can recover even if she is injured." "All right." Luli was overjoyed. He entered the separated heaven bead at once and asked Blood Fairy to control the daughter of Saint King to bring the separated heaven bead in. The daughter of Saint King went in quickly. Luli tried to sense from the separation bead. The purple haze in the interspatial artifact did not affect him. He had entered the purple haze area, but he did not feel weak. "Oh right." Luli suddenly remembered something. He tried to let the distant heaven bead fly in there, but as soon as it touched the purple haze, the distant heaven bead couldn't fly anymore. From the looks of it, it was clearly unrealistic to rely on a spatial god tool to fly inside. Otherwise, this place wouldn't be so terrifying. Everyone would be able to use spatial artifacts to fly around inside. Walk 1,000,000 miles inside. Don't be too fast. Luli communicated with Blood Fairy. The daughter of the Saint King slowly walked into the depths of the purple haze. Along the way, Luli used psychic power to sense the situation outside. Outside was a barren and deathly still land. There was nothing but a faint purple mist. There were no signs of life here. It was more like a land of death. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the daughter of the Holy King was visibly weakened. She was weaker, but she did not slow down. Luli asked Blood Fairy to continue. Well, after the time for one incense stick to burn, the purple haze became thicker. Luli told Blood Fairy to stop. He, on the other hand, quickly refined the godly medicine to recover. If he recovered quickly, he could still retreat and fly through the void to escape. Whoosh! Outside the blasted land, Dan Jioding and the Soul Chaser came. They stood in the outer area. The Soul Chaser pointed to the inside and said, "He is in there." "He really dares to go in?" Dan Jioding's hooked nose twitched. He did not expect Luli to be so bold. But on second thought, Luli had no other way out other than to go in. "Can you stand it?" Dan Jioding looked at the Spirit Chaser, and the latter said with a mournful expression, "Sir, please spare me. My tracking technique is not bad, but my combat strength is very weak. I want to live for a few more years. Going in will cost me a lot of my life energy." "All right." Dan Jioding nodded. After all, Luli was in there. He was already injured. Going in would make him weaker. Where could he go? The place was vast, but Luli believed he should be in the outer area. He could find him easily by going around the outer area. Buzzing, he took out a stalk of godly medicine and refined it. Then, he turned into a black shadow and charged inside. The blasted land was horrifying, but as long as he did not go to the core area and did not stay in there for too long, he would not die. He could just slowly replenish the vitality that he had lost. He was fast. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, he was close to Luli. Luli had been consuming the pellets to recover his body. He did not let his guard down. He had been using the trace of Great Path to check the surroundings. "He is coming." He faintly heard a noise behind him. Then, he sensed a strong killing intent coming at him. Without any hesitation, Lu Li shouted, "Blood Fairy, go in as fast as you can." Whoosh! Blood Fairy obeyed Lu Li's orders without any hesitation. She dashed in with the separation bead at the top of her speed. In the time for one breath, she had covered a distance of thousands of miles. "Bastard, don't run!" Dan Juding used psychic power to check the daughter of Holy King and Lu Li in the separation bead. He laughed and said, "If you go any further, not even an almighty God can save you. Come with me to the family patriarch. Maybe he won't kill you." Lu Li did not take Dan Juding's words seriously. He asked the daughter of Holy King to take him to the depth of the blasted land. After some thoughts, Lu Li said, "Dan family, if you are not afraid of death, then come with me. I don't want to live any longer." Ha ha ha. Dan Juding followed Lu Li in without hesitation. He said in a mocking tone, "I can hold on for some time in the blasted land. How long can you last? I don't think this puppet of yours can hold on much longer." Lu Li wasted no more time. He continued to tend to his wounds while checking on the daughter of Holy King and Dan Juding. When the daughter of Holy King entered the area with thick purple haze, Lu Li could clearly feel that her chi and energy were weakening. But to Lu Li's relief, Dan Juding was slowing down as well. He was afraid to go too fast for fear that something might go wrong. The daughter of Holy King sped up to the extreme. In the time for one incense stick to burn, she had covered 300,000 miles. The further she went, the thicker the purple haze was. Lu Li did not tell her to stop. Blood Fairy controlled the daughter of Holy King to keep going. "Bastard, stop. If you go any further, your puppet will be ruined." Lu Li heard Dan Juding's voice. He was getting closer. Lu Li made up his mind and let the daughter of Holy King go on. In the thick purple haze, the daughter of Holy King slowed down and her chi and energy were weakening. "Master." After a moment, Blood Fairy said, "I can't. If I stay any longer, this body will be destroyed." "Come in." Lu Li sighed. He could not count on the daughter of Holy King for now. He had to count on himself. Now, it was up to Dan Juding how long he could last. Strong as Lu Li was, he would not be able to hold on for long. Chapter 24:16. No, Lu Li remembered something. He had another beast that could move. King of Spectres could take the alienated bead and run away. Even though King of Spectres would be weakened at once, it could recover quickly after taking the Spring of Serenity. "King of Spectres, get out!" Lu Li ordered King of Spectres. King of Spectres dashed out, grabbed the alienated bead and dashed away. But after the time for 2 breaths, King of Spectres slowed down and its chi and energy weakened. By the time for 3 breaths, King of Spectres had only 1/5 of its original speed. Buzzing, Lu Li put King of Spectres into the Spring of Serenity. King of Spectres gulped down the Spring of Serenity. After a dozen mouthfuls, King of Spectres recovered and was in high spirits again. "Get out!" Lu Li was invigorated. He let King of Spectres out again and continued to run with the alienated bead. Though the Spring of Serenity was being consumed, King of Spectres could carry the alienated bead deeper. What? Dan Juding, who was chasing after Lu Li, noticed this with psychic power. He was surprised. Dan Juding knew that Lu Li had a King of Spectres. But what confused him was, how come every time King of Spectres entered the alienated bead, it would recover as soon as it came out? If this were the case, it would be difficult for Dan Juding to catch up with Lu Li. Dan Juding was very weak at the moment and his speed was dozens of times slower than before. Of course, he could force himself to speed up. But the faster he was, the faster he would be weakened. If Dan Juding were to follow Lu Li, there was a chance that he would die. King of Spectres carried Luli deeper and deeper. Every time King of Spectres entered the alienated bead, it would recover instantly and run away again. Moreover, his running speed was much faster than Dan Jiudeng's current speed. Not only would King of Spectres' divine energy be weakened, but so would his body and soul. His overall abilities would be weakened. As time went by, Dan Jiudeng would not even be able to defeat an average third tribulation warrior. Currently, Dan Jiudeng's abilities were weakened. He should be at the peak of the fourth tribulation now. At this rate, Dan Jiudeng's abilities would decline, and he might not even be able to defeat King of Spectres in the end. I have to try. Dan Nine Lanterns gritted his teeth. He circulated the godly power in his body crazily. His feet glowed with a green light and his speed soared. He took out a white bone bead and channeled his divine power. The bone bead lit up with a blinding white light. Waves of divine power spread out and dispersed the surrounding purple mist. He had sped up. The distance between them was closing. Luli had been keeping a close eye on Dan Nine Lanterns in the alienation bead. Naturally, he noticed. He knew that Dan Nine Lanterns was going all out. If he didn't think of a way to deal with it, the King of Spectres would be easily killed. Then, when the Heaven Separation Pearl was shattered, he would be killed as well. He looked at the Saint Emperor's daughter and transmitted his voice. Blood Fairy, do you still have the strength to fight? The Saint King's daughter was already very weak, but she recovered a little after entering the Heaven Separation Pearl. Blood Fairy said, you only have enough energy for one attack. Now you can only release one attack. After one attack, we can only wait to die. One strike? Luli made up his mind. He was ready to fight in person. After this period of recovery, he had recovered a bit and could make several moves. If Dan Nine Lanterns was the same as before, then he would die no matter what he did. Dan Nine Lanterns should be very weak at the moment. That being said, Luli still had the strength to fight. That bone bead was a piece of the divine weapon. Therefore, Luli took out the mystic iron. He thought about it and looked at the several ancient treasures. Those ancient treasures were strong. Maybe they could help him. The horn? Not easy. The ring was too small for him to use the weapon and the armor. The only thing left was the landscape painting. The painting was the same size as a person. Luli wondered if it could help him. Whoosh! Dan Nine Lanterns was coming. Luli had no time to think. He used psychic power to lock onto Dan Nine Lanterns. When Dan Nine Lanterns was about to arrive, Luli put the King of Spectres into the Serenity Spring. Hoi! Luli shouted. He mobilized his divine energy. The mystic iron glowed. Vast divine energy spread out, shaking the void. Now! Seeing that Dan Nine Lanterns was coming, Luli shouted and dashed out from the alienation bead. He held the mystic iron in one hand and the scroll in the other. Go to hell! Luli shouted. He dashed to Dan Nine Lanterns in a blur and smashed the mystic iron at Dan Nine Lanterns. Dan Nine Lanterns didn't expect that Luli would take the initiative to attack him. That being said, Dan Nine Lanterns had lived for more than 200,000 years. He had been through countless battles. How could a young man like Luli compare with him? The bone bead flew toward Luli's mystic iron. At the same time, he took out a spear and stabbed at Luli. As for the painting in Luli's hand, Dan Nine Lanterns ignored it. The painting was not controlled, so Dan Nine Lanterns could not be activated. It had no divine energy. Also, there weren't many patterns on the landscape painting. It didn't look like a piece of treasure. Boom, 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 the spear was clearly a piece of treasure. After it was activated, the spear began to glow. Everywhere the head of the spear went, there would be cracks in space like a spider web. Streaks of horrifying energy spread out from the head of the spear as if it could penetrate through everything. Luli's nerves tightened. From the depth of his soul, he sensed fatal danger. He didn't expect that Dan Nine Lanterns could still be so powerful even though his abilities were weakened. If the spear were to stab him, there wouldn't be anything left of him. Buzzing, at this critical moment, Luli had no other choice but to let out the daughter of the Saint King. The daughter of the Saint King turned into a bolt of lightning and smashed at Dan Nine Lanterns' head. Boom, 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 the bone bead and the mystic iron bumped into each other. Space was torn apart at once. The horrifying shockwave of the explosion spread out. Even the purple haze was dispersed. Bang! Almost at the same time, the spear stabbed into the painting. Luli didn't pay attention to the bone bead. All his attention was on the spear. If the painting couldn't stand it, then he would die without a burial place. Two voices of surprise came out at the same time. Both Luli and Dan Nine Lanterns were stunned. That horrifying spear stabbed into the painting and went in. That was right. Half of the spear went into the painting as if it had pierced into water. There were no ripples and no sound. Half of the spear had disappeared. Not only did the spear not come out from the back of the painting, it didn't move at all. It was like there was another world inside the painting and half of the spear had pierced into another world. Boom! The collision of the mystic iron and the bone bead caused a huge explosion. Luli and Dan Nine Lanterns were both smashed away. So was the daughter of the Saint King. Her hand was going to hit Dan Nine Lanterns, but was stopped by another artifact that Dan Nine Lanterns took out. Poof! Luli was already injured and now his injuries were even more serious. He was smashed away and spat out blood in midair. Chapter 24:17. Luli had left, but Dan Jioding was still standing there. He could not figure it out. How come when his spear pierced through the scroll, not only did Luli not suffer any harm, but the scroll was undamaged as well? What is that? Dan Jioding had lived for more than 200,000 years, and he was a powerful warrior from a family of a great emperor. He was knowledgeable and had seen many kinds of treasures. But this was the first time he had seen something like this. Is it from the ancient times? Dan Jioding's eyes glowed. Clearly, Luli had not taken control of the artifact. He did not pour in divine energy, and the artifact did not show any signs of divine energy. If the artifact was so powerful before it was taken control, how powerful would it be? Would it be able to withstand attacks from super-powerful warriors? Dan Jioding was about to give up. The thought of the artifact excited him. If he could capture or kill Luli, the artifact would be his. Let's do it. The previous round of attacks had weakened Dan Jioding. If he went after Luli like this, he would not be able to take him down even if he could. Here it is. Dan Jioding made up his mind and took out a jade box. The jade box was of high quality. Not only was it made of good materials, but it was also covered with divine patterns. Since the box was of such high quality, the item inside must be of the highest level. Buzzing, Dan Jioding opened the portal. A ray of white light flew out. A piece of herb was about to fly away when Dan Jioding grabbed it in his hand. The herb was of the highest level. One piece of herb would be worth at least 100 billion divine stones. It was a treasure that could only be found by luck. Dan Jioding used the herb to save his life. As long as he was still breathing, he could recover to his peak state immediately after he consumed the herb. This herb was not given by the Dan family. Dan Jioding found it in a perilous place. If it were not for the scroll in Luli's hand, Dan Jioding would not have taken it out. But the scroll was so powerful that it was worth it to waste a piece of herb. The herb was consumed quickly. Dan Jioding's energy was growing stronger. The lethargy on his face was gone. His cheeks were glowing. He looked hundreds of years younger. Let's go. In just the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, Dan Jioding had refined the divine medicine, and his aura had reached its peak. Even though Luli had been gone for the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Dan Jioding did not mind. His elixir could sustain him for the time for half an incense stick to burn. Dan Jioding could cover a great distance in that time. It would be a piece of cake for him to catch up with Lu Li. Lu Li had gone far. He didn't care about the consumption of the nether spring water. Even if all the nether spring water was used up, he wouldn't care. Since he was already dead, what was the point of caring about those things? He should have entered the core region of the Cursed Lands. The purple mist here was even denser, and there were some palace ruins here. These should be the ruins of the great sect. Lu Li was relieved to see that Dan Jioding didn't come after him for now. Lu Li didn't dare to go any further after a while. This was because the purple mist in front of them had actually turned brown. That was probably the core region. If he were to enter that place, it was very likely that the Phantom King would immediately become dispirited as soon as he came out, and he might not even be able to walk. Lu Li put away the Phantom King and consumed the elixir himself. Also, he asked Blood Fairy, can the Phantom King's daughter consume the elixir? Or should she consume some nether spring water? If the Phantom King's daughter could recover quickly, Lu Li would be able to protect himself in the Cursed Lands. The Phantom King's daughter was Lu Li's greatest trump card. The Phantom King's daughter jumped into the nether spring water. She took a few mouthfuls of the nether spring water to no avail. Lu Li took out a piece of elixir and she swallowed it at once. Soon Blood Fairy said, "Master, it is working. Her vitality is recovering. Do you have any elixir that can restore vitality? Give me more." Lu Li did not have many of such elixirs. He looked around and gave the Phantom King's daughter the only 7 or 8 he had. The Phantom King ate them one by one. Gradually, she began to show signs of life. How Lu Li was surprised. The Phantom King's daughter had been dead for tens of thousands of years. There was no sign of life in her body. She was more like a puppet or a mummy. Now that she had consumed some elixirs, she was showing signs of life? In addition to her vitality, the Phantom King's daughter was recovering as well. The elixirs were clearly effective. They could help the Phantom King's daughter recover her abilities. Here are some more healing pellets. Lu Li took out many healing pellets and gave them to her. He did not have many elixirs that could restore vitality, but he had plenty of such healing pellet. Both the palace of Rakshasa and the Een family had given him a large number of such pellet. He could not use them all. She can recover as well. Blood Fairy answered soon. Lu Li was overjoyed. The Phantom King's daughter could recover, which would strengthen his ability to protect himself. Dan Jioding would be fine even if he came. He must be very weak at the moment. He might not be a match for the Phantom King's daughter. Lu Li made up his mind. He would not worry about the Phantom King's daughter anymore. He would consume the elixirs to recover in peace. When he was healed, he could try to fly away in the void. He was overthinking in the time for half an incense stick to burn. Lu Li heard some noises coming from behind him. The speed was fast. Lu Li was surprised when he checked with psychic power. Dan Jioding was at the peak of his power. Lu Li felt that he was a god of death. Judging from his power, Lu Li could tell that Dan Jioding could kill him in one move. He must have taken elixirs. Lu Li made up his mind. Without any hesitation, he let out the Phantom King. The Phantom King grabbed the separated heaven bead and dashed into the brown fog. Lu Li was the kind of person who would rather die than live in dishonor. Lu Li wanted him to resign himself to death and become Phoenix Queen's prisoner? He would rather die. He had humiliated Phoenix Queen at the second realm. Though he did not know why Phoenix Queen did not go after him, Lu Li believed that as long as he was captured by Phoenix Queen, he would wish he was dead. Whoosh! The Phantom King dashed into the brown fog with the separated heaven bead in his hand. He sped up to the top of his speed and went in for thousands of miles. However, he was so weak that he could not move anymore. Dan Juding stopped outside the thick brown fog. He was somewhat hesitant. He knew the cursed land very well. The brown fog was the core area. Not even powerful warriors of the Lord Realm were willing to go in. If they were to stay in there for too long, not even powerful warriors of the Lord Realm would be able to walk out. Thousands of years ago, there was a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm who did not believe it. He wanted to go in and search for the hidden treasures in the sacred ground of the cursed land. In the end, he went into the brown fog and never came out. Let's go. After hesitating for the time for 2 breaths, Dan Juding made up his mind. He would fight for the scroll. If he could get the scroll, the risk would be worth it. After he got the scroll, he felt that he could even fight against powerful warriors of the Lord Realm with his speed and the treasure. He had lived for a long time. He had nothing else to ask for, but his desire for powerful combat abilities had always been strong. As long as I can get that bastard, I will use my most powerful move and kill him. Dan Juding's eyes were filled with killing intent. Phoenix Queen had asked for him alive. But given the current situation, Dan Juding could not care less. He had to kill him first and then apologize to Phoenix Queen. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.